La trae España al ataque.
Lo cambió de posición, a Tagliafico.
Subi Méndez para Lamin. El toque atrás, Porro la pone al área. ¡Ah! El cabezazo atrás. ¡Queda el remate! ¡Gol! ¡Ferran! El centro de Lamin, el centro de Porro, digo, el cabezazo de Williams y el remate de Ferran.
Y así le cae la pelota, y como lo hizo Iniesta en Johannesburgo en tiempo extra, Ferran prende de pierna izquierda.
And that was the moment yesterday. It took a while, but that was the moment where you end up with one of the most impressive, I was about to go a little deeper than that. It was one of the most impressive defensive outputs in a tournament we've seen ever. Ever. And it was dominant across the board. We talked about it yesterday on Atlanta Soccer Tonight. Jason, Maddie, and myself. And the numbers themselves are staggering. Welcome to Reaction Monday here on the SDH Network. John Nelson here with you. SDH AM from the Kaiser Permanente Studios, as you can see. Once again, it's another Monday. We got a little bit to talk about. We got a little bit to talk about here. We got a stacked show to do it. Abe Gordon's going to join us in a bit, bat and leadoff. Kevin Huet, lecturer and master of all of his domains, whether we're talking pro or we're talking exercise science, senior lecturer, exercise science at Kennesaw State University. He's going to be joining us to talk about the what it's like to be an individual either on the touchline with a flag or a man in the middle with a whistle in a big situation like we had yesterday. What it's like to navigate that kind of stuff, the pressure within. 10 o'clock. Bart Keeler is going to join us from the SoccerForUSPod. We'll talk about the tournament. We might have some reffing down here because there was some reffing down there that needed to be talked about. And the USMNT decision this week, according to Mauricio Pochettino, about his future. 10:30, our friend Glenn Davis is going to join us from Houston, Texas, because soccer matters. Glenn was part of the Host Broadcast Network play-by-play crew. We're going to find out about his field trip. We're going to find out about what he learned along the way. And we will get into the entire tournament across the board. I know that a lot of you already are fired up in the Twitch pitch. And as you should, continue to have your conversations. And we will bring them in this morning as well. So it's Abe, it's Kevin, it's Bart, and it's Glenn. Tomorrow, to give you an idea, because we're getting closer and closer to a midweek match day, early start, 8:30. Will Pelagic, play-by-play voice of Charlotte FC, is going to join us. We're going to break things down with him, and we may break the sound barrier tomorrow because we have guests all across the board, plus the news and all the things. So we may break the sound barrier. We might go 3 hours tomorrow because it's going to be 8:30. It's going to be Kennesaw State at 9:05. It's going to be, no, David, no days off until maybe December. David, I love how you're thinking. I love your thoughts. But probably not, well, yes, back to the 5-day routine, yes, that I grant you. Yes, that I grant you. When it comes to the show, SDH AM will be back to 5 days a week until the Women's World Cup. And then we'll go 7 again because we learned something, and it was a really cool lesson to learn, that we need to clone ourselves, among other things. But yes, this week it's going to be a combination of putting a bow on the World Cup, getting you ready for Atlanta United twice, then getting you ready for All-Star. We've got the twos coming up this weekend. So pacing doesn't really stop. For me, I think it's pretty much nonstop until mid-December. And then I get to remember that I have to buy Christmas presents for people. But this morning, this week, as long as you guys want to have it in the Twitch pitch, we'll break it all down because there's a lot to get into. But yes, this morning, Abe Gordon, Kevin Huet from Pro and from Kennesaw State, Bart Keeler, SoccerForUSPod, Glenn Davis, Soccer Matters in Houston, Texas. He's going to join us. But yeah, we get to find out about Glenn's field trip. And hopefully he got the miles and points attached. We'll find out some of his greatest hits. We'll ask him what he thought about the championship as well and get into all of the stuff. Wasting no time to get into the reverse fixture because yesterday, and I have to ask about this too as we bring in our buddy Abe Gordon. How are your ears, sir, after yesterday afternoon when the thunderstorm of biblical proportions was with you over at Founders Green, huh?
Yeah, there was like one, maybe two cracks that were like a little scaringly close. Like you could kind of feel it outside of hearing it. But it was fine. Like I've had lightning strikes kind of near me before. So what better to, than sit under a possibly metal tent outside where everyone else ran for cover. So
yes. And it was because we were over across the street down at Brewhouse in Soto. And this is where we pull back the fourth wall here. So pulling back the fourth wall as Abe hydrates as he should. So Jason is getting ready to leave Brewhouse, walk down the block, go be with Abe in the afternoon before kickoff for the final match of the World Cup, match 104. Literally, we look up as Jason's walking out the door and the skies have opened up. It is like monsoon type stuff. And so Jason's trying to figure out how he can get to go see you. He's kind of navigating the awnings on our side of the street. Then he realizes I'm not going to make it. And then he has an executive decision where, hey, can I do this over the phone? He calls into Colony Square. They go, yes. Now, did the segment start and then you lost it? Or
I think I was walking my way into the first question, and then I just never heard an answer. So I don't know when we actually disconnected, lost power, then we're gone for a couple of segments. But essentially, I told the producer back in studio, like, hey, just have Jason was going to talk about the soccer game. Just have him do that without me asking questions about it. And then we can preview it that way. And then we'll figure it out from there. So he kind of just took the segment, ran with it, and got everyone ready for the game that we saw. And it was an awesome one.
Yep. And getting into it, I was kind of teasing how Spain, best team won. Bottom line. And I still don't know how they were ranked number 2 in the world. The defense, and I was getting into this morning, when we talk about the other football, it's the purple people eaters. It's the monsters of the midway. It's always that lockdown corner that's going to shut down your number one receiver. You got to try and figure out if you can run the ball, and all the defensive linemen, they've got all the gaps covered. You can't double team them. It doesn't matter. They're going to have their will imposed upon you, and it's going to be difficult for the opponent to function. Spain did that for an entire tournament. It's just that I think we all finally got to see just how imposing it is against a team like Argentina in the final.
Well, and I think the difference is when you talk about football, offense versus defense, it's a completely separate unit. It's a completely separate 11 players. This is a combination, right? This is the same players, and some of them have different tasks, certainly, but it's the players you're counting on to be up top and win you the game that are also being counted on to, hey, they don't get to play around with it in their own defensive half. And we're pressing when they get to midfield and all of that thing. So I don't really look at it as like just the defense. It's all kind of encompassing because it's also the guys who are threatening up top that are being dangerous, that are forcing Emi Martinez to look like an absolute world eater out there. It all kind of rolls into one. I would say the one thing for me is in all of my lead up to this, I was sitting there saying, Argentina wants this 3-1, 3-2. Spain's going to come out here, and they would love it to be 1-0. I don't think they would prefer it 1-0 beyond the 90 minutes.
Right.
But Spain's the type of team that's like, hey, you know what our perfect game would be today? We score in the 53rd minute, and then it's 1-0 from there on out, and we just see it out. And so I'm not surprised at what the game played itself out to be. Spain was incredibly dominant. They had complete match control. The only problem is when you don't get that goal sometime in regulation, now everything amplifies. One mistake, anything that goes out for a corner, you get worried about, and it plays out there, because Argentina had some chances. They were threatening at times, and then you get the second yellow card, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Spain doesn't score if Argentina's at 11, or that they do score even if they're at 11. Like, I don't know how the game would have changed, but it was played how it was played. I think it was a fair second yellow turning into a red.
Yeah.
And that's the consequence. So look, you see some teams take guys out in those situations when you have that, but when you're Argentina and you're looking for something, who are you taking out to put in at that point? So it was, a part of a risk, and they dealt with it, and the consequence was down 10 men. They still almost got it to penalty kicks even from there. And you could see it at that point. Obviously, Argentina was looking for the PK, but that also didn't mean that they didn't push a little bit and try and find some threats at times as well. So I thought it was a valiant effort from Argentina. I thought they played the game the way they needed to in order to try and win it. I just think it's also playing into Spain's hands at that point. And, is it better to win 1-0 than to lose 5-1? Because that's the other alternative is Argentina opens themselves up so much more than they already were to try and find ways to possess and control it. And at that point, you might just give Spain more and more and more. They played it. They almost got it to penalty kicks, and who knows what would happen from there.
Yeah, when you have someone like Emi Martinez, I think the last thing that you want is going into PKs, and I'm not diminishing Unai Simon at all. But I think the last thing you want is to go to PKs and be staring at a madman like Emi Martinez on the other part of the equation there. It's Unai Simon and Emi Martinez would have been a hell of a PK shootout. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where it's a confidence thing for Argentina, the way that he played that day, and it certainly does bring into the minds of the Spain shooters. Like, would I have to be just a little bit better, a little bit more elevated, a little more right on the side post? Like how does it change what they would want to do with their shots? And I think we've seen at the couple of shootouts we had this tournament, the margins, just how small a difference it is between setting it on the inside part of the crossbar or over the crossbar, stuff like that. So, it doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean that Argentina would have won because he was having a heck of a game, but you certainly would have loved their positioning. But I also felt like if we went to shootouts, the way that both teams, the uber confidence of both teams, like, I don't feel like it was going to be done in 5. Like, I feel like you're going into sudden death at 5-5, you know what I mean? And then it's just like, I don't know.
I mean, it's for me, legitimately, yeah, it would have gone for a while.
Yeah.
When you think about what Spain has developed over time, you have a coach in Luis de la Fuente who has been in the system for about a dozen years, coached at the U19 level, coached at the U21 level, got a silver medal in the Olympics. Then he went to the senior team, and it is Nations League, Euro, World Cup, back to back to back here. And this is a group that is young. I mean, and this is once the benefit of having a coach that's been a part of this system. He said post-match, I've known 90% of these guys since they were 12 or 13 years old. And you're getting them. You get Pau Cubarsí, who is 19, Lamine Yamal, who is 19. You got young dudes out there. And this could be something that goes on for a while when we're talking about Spain.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I broke it down 2 ways going into the match yesterday. I want to start with Argentina. Just if Argentina had won, I think we retroactively said, boy, this was their real golden generation, right? The end of Messi's career, but with everything else involved. And obviously that falls apart. And so the golden generation quote for Argentina can continue. For Spain, it's really fascinating to kind of be in it. And I don't know if we had the conversation leading into the World Cup that they are entering a golden generation, but now that they have won the World Cup, now that they have put together the defensive performances that they have, now that they have this long undefeated streak in competitive matches, and now you start to turn it to, okay, what about Euros in 2 years from now, or Nations League, or of course the next World Cup? And there's not really a reason to believe they're not gonna that they're gonna have some sort of fall off the way that we talk about golden generations who age themselves out. Mm-hmm. They're just now aging themselves in.
Yeah,
and so sometimes I think it's rare that two things happen, right? We talk about a golden generation and they actually win like a golden generation should, mm-hmm. and that we talk about having ourselves a golden generation as we're in that golden generation. And that's kind of how I feel Spain is. Like, I feel like so often we talk about a golden generation as the best chance, but they always fall up short. Like we've talked about at times, Belgium and their previous golden generation, and at what was supposed to be the US's golden generation that came nowhere close, and just different countries that you talk about at times. The two that are fascinating to me, which is so interesting now, are the two that are going to be hosting the World Cup moving forward. And that is Spain in 4 years and Morocco in 4 years. I think those are the two where you look at and say, whatever they would have accomplished this run, maybe you could look at as even being ahead of schedule for 4 years when they get to play host. Certainly, I think Morocco was very young. Spain has a little bit more age and experience. They've also played a lot more high-level competition. But it just feels like we're watching a golden generation while we're in the middle of it. And I don't think we always get to appreciate it in that manner. Usually we claim it and someone falls short, or we go back and say that was it. I think we're in it and we're watching it.
Okay. Hydrate away, because we're changing topics now, getting into the Atlanta United section of the program and getting into what happened on the weekend up in Nashville, and you'll learn from there. I believe there are going to be player introductions later this morning up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. You're in Charlotte in the midweek. You're in Foxborough on the weekend, and you're learning the lessons from Nashville when you were shorthanded, and now you're working your way into 2 more matches, 3 matches in a week, all of them on the road.
Yeah, and look, there was this premise, this idea that you use this lengthy World Cup break and you refresh, and if not physically, certainly mentally. And the team kind of played that way. They looked really good against Nashville. It's their second straight time heading up to Nashville as major underdogs and outperforming the home crowd. The difference was last year when it was a big shock, they brought home 3 points. And unfortunately, you look at the two really legitimate opportunities. Luke Brandon just unable to cut it past the keeper to the right side. And then Latte Loth. I don't really blame Latte Loth. I don't think his miss hit was as bad as a lot of people made it out to be. I think he tried to be a little bit too perfect with placement, and he mishit it with the curve and bend.
And I think he was also kind of leaning to
all of that.
And so you're naturally going to get that.
He's trying to cut it back with his foot and then still get outward bend, almost like a Trivela, but off balanced into the left corner. And he just mishit it and never got it inside the post to begin with. But the Luke Brendan's the really bad one. That's the one that needs to be scored. There's so much room on the far side to the right side that Luke was trying to shoot at. He just didn't cut it hard enough. And if you go up 1-0, it's completely different. But you also get penalized. And like when you talk about Spain and how dominant they were, Argentina still had some very scary moments for Spain. The difference is that Spain was up to it and matched it. And the difference is that even though Atlanta United was incredibly dominant against Nashville, they found their moment and they capitalized and scored, and that was that. And it's a little of both, right? It's a little of, do you feel better coming out of that game because of the performance? Yeah, I can understand why you would say that. You did feel like you were a little bit more attack-minded, a little bit more offensive, but at the end of the day, you still didn't score, you still didn't win, and now you have to suffer the feeling from that perspective of frustration. And it, how quickly does the mental fatigue from those first 14 games and like how you felt as you were dropping those games, does it return immediately, or are you still somewhat fresh and optimistic about these last 20 games? A little bit tough to tell, but yeah, you got to turn it around quick. You're very shorthanded in the back, at least as long as Theon Gregerson is injured, and your two new signings, Diaz Alonso, until they get the visa stuff figured out. Tough to see Jay go down. I didn't see an update on Matt, but I would guess his is probably also a hamstring. And you just don't know the status of them. Certainly not for midweek, but even for the weekend as well. So, yeah, you got to dial it right back up and get after it. And it's going to be interesting to see some of the choices that are being made if the new guys are not ready to go. I thought Thomas Jacob was outstanding. You'd asked him to move inside, something you didn't really do much of, certainly not at the start of the game. I know he'd been placed in there by substitutions and tactics, but pushed inside, he fared well. But now with Matt out, you use Ronald on the outside. Do you find someone else inside? If Stian can go and push Jacob back outside, right? So there's definitely some choices, and same thing with Jay in the middle. I do think Will Riley is probably your most direct one-for-one change, but I also think that I view Will Riley more as a defensive-minded guy, and Jay Fortune a little more as a moving forward-minded guy. We've seen some of the goals that Jay has scored, if not in the regular season, even as recently as that friendly against Kansas City. So certainly feels like that one's a big loss. It happened too early in the game, and you wish you had seen a little bit more of those two guys, Jay and Cooper, together.
Broadcast plans for the matchup in the midweek with Charlotte?
Yeah, we'll be doing the whole regular bit. So pregame in studio starting at 7 o'clock. It is another nationally televised game, so we'll have a bit of an extended pregame, which should be good coming off of the World Cup. And look, MLS is back, and just we're all hoping that there's a little bit of different feel to, we'll call it, the second half for Atlanta United. You were close to having that Friday night, but you just didn't get the result. And that's been a conversation before, and hopefully it will not be the conversation on midweek, because we it's not too much else to say about you played well and didn't get the result. I'd almost rather complain about being absolutely obliterated and poor performance than trying to be, down the middle with there's optimism and this and that, but there's also frustration there as well. So hopefully we get some sort of different story one way or the other than what we told on Friday night.
Rivalry coming up in the midweek. Atlanta's in Charlotte as schedule compression toward MLS All-Star continues. As always, great to see you, my friend. Thanks for leading off and being the reverse fixture for us after yesterday and all of the monsoon. Good to see you, my friend.
You got it, John. We'll see you soon.
There he goes, Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. And that is the rundown of quickly Atlanta United, and we'll get into Atlanta United more, obviously, as we get into tomorrow. And we do have some gaps in the show where we can break things down with Atlanta United, continue our conversation with the World Cup and all that kind of stuff. Okay, bottom of the hour, which means we do a hot tag, and we bring in guest number 2, which means we head to the area in and around Kennesaw State University, and we catch up with our friend Kevin Huet and find out, where were you yesterday, sir? Where were you watching your peers and the game that was happening in front of you?
Hey, good morning, John. Appreciate you having me back on. Loved the segment from Abe. Awesome breakdown of the final and the World Cup all together and looking ahead. I was right here in my neighborhood watching with a friend. He's a coach at youth levels, things like that. So that gave me a really fun chance to folks that look at the game with two completely different lenses coming together to enjoy it. So we had actually a lot of really good conversation out of it. So
okay. So all right, well then let me peel back the fourth wall on that one. So how much of that conversation can you divulge, or was it just two guys sitting there and saying, well, if I did this or if I did this? How much of a conversation can you tell me about this? Because it is two interesting perspectives staring at the World Championship.
So last time You had me on with the very first question stumped me right out of the gate. You might not remember it. It was misconceptions about referees.
Yeah.
And as a referee, there's decisions I can make like that. I gave you an answer. That one, I couldn't come up with it, you know? Yesterday I found it.
Okay.
Talking to him, I found it. And it's an idea of, I think, not understanding what we do outside of the game. Grassroots referees aside, those that have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a day across a weekend, they do their games and they go on back to life. But those advancing referees, we eat, sleep, breathe the game just as players do. So I think the misconception that I would like to bring up is we don't just go do a game and then run off, live life again. Once you have video, we are tracking down the video. A lot of referees are contacting teams saying, "Hey, can I get access to the feed? I want to watch the game back." Of course, we have evaluations, assessments, but I think the idea of understanding that we are invested in this and looking back at things that we can do better, I think is a misconception that I'd definitely like to clear up.
Absolutely. When you get tape, I guess when you're calling teams and you're trying to get tape, are they usually pretty cool about it, or do they sit there and are they kind of like, well, nah, our dog ate our homework and we can't watch? How forthcoming are they when it comes to you asking for tape under the idea of, I want to make myself better? It's not, I'm not going to sit here and, dump on it version 2.0. I want to make myself better. How open are they about that kind of stuff?
Yes. So a good question. Across the pathway and progressing, the answer is it depends. From my experience, you have to frame it the right way, and I think you actually have to time it the right way too. Some referees before the game will say, "Hey, I see you have a VO feed. Listen, would there be any way that I could find a way to get access to that so I can watch things back for my own development?" You frame it that way. If you have some big controversy or something in the game, and afterwards you're trying to track down a coach who's not too thrilled with you,
Yeah.
are they really going to help you out? So I think how you frame it, the timing and everything around it too, it always depends on the scenario. Some are more willing than others. But I think there's a large majority out there that get it and appreciate it too.
When you get tape, I know we're all naturally hypercritical amongst ourselves. We sit there, we're our own worst enemies when it comes to self-evaluation. How much do you watch? Do you watch more than you should? Do you get caught up in things? Where do you get too focused on minutia when you first start this process, and then over time do you sit there and kind of put things in context? What's it like looking at yourself on tape? Because I'm sure there are folks, like I said, I've told folks in the past, I hate the sound of my own voice. So if a show is over, and so it's like, I hate the sound of my own voice. I don't watch anything again after it's done. Live, it's happened, it's over, I'm out. I trust others to make the appraisals of what they saw and what they were a part of, and then I trust them and use that as a part of the growth process. When you're watching tape, how far back do you go? How much tape do you have? How much time are you spending on yourself in this process?
What I want to introduce is mentorship.
Yeah.
So once you start getting into, as soon as possible, truthfully, just like players when they have their coaches and everything, again, I want to keep going back to those parallels. We look to have mentors that can help us along with our decisions, with our approach, the professionalism, all of that stuff. So what also happens is we take the video and we have a decision that we're curious about, or a route that we take for positioning. Remember our conversation last night about fighting for our position. Excuse me, I've also got a cough I'm dealing with.
Hydrate. Go hydrate. Where's your hydration? There you go. Yeah, we believe in hydration.
It's mentorship. So we develop these referee circles. We're social beings, believe it or not, and we clip a decision, send it off to the people in our life, and we say, hey, what do you think? And we're not interested in, oh, this player, that player. It's our decision, our development. What could we have done? Because U.S. Soccer and their pathways, they're really, really big on self-reflections. And they're always wanting us to try to understand what is it that we can look back on It looks different going up the rungs of the ladder, of course, what we're trying to self-assess and be aware of. But back to your kind of think original question,
Yeah.
when we are looking at it, it is every little detail of why in the world am I doing that? Or, oh my gosh, I run like that. And so there is a lot of everything around why in the world did I make that decision to how do I look? Yes, there's some of that. And also, did I get the decision correct?
So when it comes to the rhythm of a match, I know that officials, referees, ARs, what have you, you have your own personality, you have your own style, you have your own way of watching a match in its prism. How difficult is it to be consistent in your thought pattern within the rhythm of a match? Because there are times where you will have officials and it could be leaning in one way when it comes to personality and how they're gauging a match. And then all of a sudden there's this thought of self-correction. It's like, okay, I might have gone too far. You're at the half and you're sitting there and it's like, I might have done a little bit too much this way. And then there's a tendency at times to sit there and overcorrect instead of staying within your own rhythm. How difficult is that within the tenor of a match, especially if the level of importance of a match is, higher than high? How difficult is it to stay consistent within a 90 minutes?
Yeah, John, it's fascinating because there's so many different positions in a game, or I'll say situations in a game where one particular tact is going to work. And then it could be even the same player 15, 20 minutes later, you try sort of that same tact and that's gone. That ship has sailed. But I want to bring up with that, think about the World Cup. Think about every game you see, MLS, NWSL, going up the pathways. There's different types of referees.
Right.
And I'm just going to throw two particular at you. Think about old school referees would call them, they're the player's referee, that they're almost not like a coach necessarily, but they show empathy. They're going to have a good conversation with you. They're very open, no problem with you having a chat. And then you have those that are very kind of strict by the book, if that is the case, and not so much willing to have conversation and having more tactful situations throughout the game where they can have that conversation. And every single type has its own merit, find success their routes. To what you're asking, I remember very distinctly a friend of mine. He was refereeing high school games. This was years ago, and he was telling me about, I go through games and I'll try to see if I can find a player to crack a joke with. And so he'll run over, he'll crack a joke. His big thing is humor.
Yeah.
He'll crack a joke with somebody. These are high school kids, and if that guy shuts him off, he's like, okay, that didn't work. And he runs off and he goes and fights somebody else. It might be an injury or after a goal or something, somebody like shanks a shot. He come over and be like, man, maybe you should use your other foot, whatever it is. And so he gauges things that way. That was his way to get through it. So, that works until it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so it is difficult. And I think what we can do is as mentors, as coming up the path, is we want to have tools in our toolbox. We want to stay within ourselves and be who we are. I think that authentic piece really gets you far. And I think that's something that if I can connect to the World Cup, Ish and his crew, I mean, you look at him, go back to the World Cup 4 years ago, if I may, and one of those iconic moments was that second yellow card that he gave, red card for the celebration.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a big, very demonstrous, off you go. It was a lot of compassion and love. And I think everybody appreciated that and loved seeing that from the referee. Same thing can be true at all levels. So being who you are, while it is very, very tough sometimes, that's why this takes so long to really grind through in the pathways of what they are, is being true to yourself, but trying new things as well.
And you mentioned what Ismail Elfath did, and and if you haven't seen the tape, it's kind of cool how he addresses it, because he's standing maybe 2.5 feet from the player, and he looks at him and he's like, I got to do this. It's not just one of those things where roar and raging or anything. It's like he's like, I got to do it. And it's like you're waiting for it. You did it. You did something wrong, and then you go to the man in the middle, and Ismail Elfath's like, yeah, I saw it. We all saw it. I got to do this. Bang, and it's I thought that was in a high impact situation to have to pull that trigger, but have that little twist attached to it. I thought it was a unique way of looking at it, and I think it reinforces his own personality as to how he calls matches.
Absolutely. It kept the player's dignity, I think, in so many ways. And it's not Ish being part of, or the referee being the situation there. He gives him all the time, all the space. Go ahead, have all this moment. It's a beautiful moment. Have it all. But when you're done with it, we're gonna have to do that thing.
I gotta bring you up here. What's your best Ismail Elfath story about who he is, not just as a ref, but as a human being?
I don't know if I can think of much of one. We've crossed paths. I worked with him, of course, years ago as well. I think where I'm at, I don't think that would be one I can think of off the top of my head. That's really something that's who he is. I think I'd be doing him a disjustice with how much beauty he's got in his game and everything. I'll leave that for somebody else to come on and give you a story for.
Okay, well then when it comes to the grind, let me ask you this, because he has gone from being a player in like USL League 2 in Austin, Texas, and the story goes that his engine ran a little hot as a player, which I find interesting that as a player his engine ran a little hot, and you see who he is on the field now. It's an interesting dichotomy. But he was so disenchanted, and that's the word I'll use, with the officiating in his leagues locally and in USL League 2. The head of the organization there was like, okay, well, come on in, and he thought about it for a while, and he's like, yeah, okay. And he's gone from there to these heights that he's been accomplishing on the world stage. And I guess this goes back to the whole misconceptions thing. How much work are we talking about that you and everyone there at Pro and everyone that wants to continue to go to higher levels when it comes to their levels of competition that they call? How much work are you guys putting in to stay consistent, to stay up to date with the rules of the game, to make sure that you're as up to date as you can be, that you stay who you are as an official, but still try to make the effort to climb and get to where you want to be as an official, on the elevated stage? How much work are you guys putting in to get to where you want to be?
John, there's each pathway, each progression through the pathway, I guess, has more attached to it in terms of the requirements, right? And I think that probably makes sense when you break it down. Early on, as a grassroots or a referee, the responsibility, you have to recertify every year, and it's an online thing that you have to go through. Not much craziness to it. As you build, you start to have to get assessments, fitness requirements, more sort of rigorous training, and that continues to go up each level. And as I mentioned, the commitment, I think, continues to rise. The expectations are higher. What we're striving for is great. And at every level, though, you have big games. Early on, it could be getting to go to State Cup, referee at State Cup. You aspire to be able to go to regionals, which I don't think regionals is there anymore, unfortunately. Referees are coming back from nationals right now, USYS nationals. So there's always something that we're looking forward to. There's always a big match in front of us that we're hoping for. And every referee is hoping for that big match, of course. But what we're trying to do ultimately every time is do what we can, if at least the ones that are approaching this from this manner as I did, is finding ways. I've always believed in all I can control is me and what I can do to get better. And with assigners, once you get down to that final game, you've got 3, maybe 4 referees that you are able to put on that game. And there could be many more referees that they'd love to put on it. So whatever we can do to situate ourselves to be put on that high profile, that big game, that for us really means a lot for our progression. So there's always a game that we can be looking forward to, but ultimately, because we have no control over what game we get put in, we just want to do the very best we can each game. And so it goes into our preparation. What are we doing to see what the teams are, where the teams are at across how they've been playing, if it's an event, if it's a season, whatever, how well we can prepare for our team. The fitness side of things, the laws of the game, like you mentioned, the trainings. So there's so many aspects to it when we break it down that we can look forward to. But I think at the end of the day, I think we just understand what we can do to get better. And then lastly, the piece that I would add into it is looking around elsewhere, looking up to the players, or excuse me, the referees, maybe watching this World Cup, watching MLS and WSL. You see those and you see what they're doing, and then you find, what can I put into my own game? Again, just like players do when they're watching those games. So looking around, what are other referees doing? I think that's always a really helpful thing that we can do to add on into our game and study what we could be doing better.
Our friend Kevin Huet, senior lecturer of exercise science, hooty hoo to him and all of his folks this morning on a Monday after the World Cup final, breaking things down from the whistles and flags perspective. I do have an exercise science question that I will push to the tail here in a second. When it comes to, I'll say it this way: when it comes to people getting in your grill, when folks want to challenge your call, want to challenge insert whatever, it's like the mouths are running hot, the engines are running hot, and you got folks crowding you, and things are said in the heat of battle. How do you keep from taking it personally and having it affect the calls and the demeanor that you're going to have for the remainder of the match from that moment? How do you tune out noise, I guess, is probably what I'm trying to ask, because in a lot of heavy duty matches, there are going to be moments where folks are going to come up and they're going to look like Dikembe Mutombo, and they're going to go like this to you and all this kind of stuff. How do you navigate the noise to make sure that you're still heard and you and your fellow officials are still heard in these situations?
Yeah, what an insightful question too. So my total referee colleagues, the group that I work with, Matthew Conger, heading a lot of that, he's introduced a lot of this stuff to me from the idea of emotional intelligence. And what the basis premises off of that is a really fantastic piece that essentially we understand why a player is reacting that way and what we can do to control ourselves. I know I can testify for my own that when my emotional levels start going up, my decision making and my processes go down. So that reverse effect, I think that's part of what you see players doing. That is, they're trying to get inside there, right, and trying to break down some barriers. And what we can do to kind of eliminate some of that noise is simply maybe even understanding where they're coming from and looking past the actual the emotional piece to it, the loud noise, and understanding that it's coming back to a decision. Maybe it's something that is not even related to that particular decision. So seeing where is it that they're actually coming from here, understanding that this is an emotional game, that we're going to have emotions, going through a lot of practice and, again, experience, why we have so many games under our belts, so that we can even work on those things of how we do come into that situation. You're not good at it and you don't know how you're going to respond until you actually get there. So it comes with a lot of time and miles in games. So an understanding, I think, that we are emotional beings as well, and doing our own work on the side of being able to regulate that stuff, taking a deep breath, potentially, if we're using radios, maybe we have somebody in our ear that's able to say something, whatever brings us back down. But I think it comes from everywhere of experience, acknowledging that this is an emotional game, and having some practice and knowing how we can also de-escalate players and how they're responding to us.
And at the same time, you've got to add the cultural aspects that are brought to the table, because we're all from different parts of this melting pot, and you have to understand, you mentioned where a player is coming from. You got to make sure that you know the context of where that player is coming from, if he's going to say a certain thing or if he means to say a certain thing, because obviously words are important in communication, but you've got to know where they're coming from to add to the context of a situation that, could be escalating, to keep it from completely and totally, have the teapot boiling over. So, I mean, that's another aspect to all of this that folks may not necessarily understand, is that you've got to know the cultural aspects of what's going on in a conversation.
John, let me flip that question to you. From looking at the tournament, what did you see from referees in that sort of space when players did get up in their grill?
What I didn't see enough of was this. I didn't see enough of this. I know that the newer laws mean, it's like, if you crowd me, then it's literally it's only the dude that's got the armband is the only one that's allowed to get in space. Yeah. And it's like, this is the only dude I want to talk to. But you've got like 19 other guys that want to come and do this. I didn't see enough of this. I didn't see enough of, and that might just be personal preference of like, it's cool. I get it. I know everybody's engines are running hot. I can handle it within the personal space idea. And all of this is not going to influence me. It's going to be the conversation that I have with the captain. Y'all can do this all you want. You can call me everything from a child of God to a sewing machine, but I'm focusing right here, and I'm not getting completely and totally, wrapped up in all of the noise. I want to see more. And this might be just adjusting to the laws. It's like, I want to see more cards for crowding. That's the biggest thing that I didn't see. I thought it was handled fairly well across the board. It's just that, one, I didn't see enough cards for crowding because there were some situations in the 104 matches where I'm like, dude, bang. I was waiting for that. And then the adjustments and the cultural aspects of this, that. And it's like, if you're not supposed to do this, and Miguel Almiron was he was the first one that got dinged for that. So, you have that local aspect that's attached to it with that. This is, and Cucurella almost got into trouble yesterday because he did this and then Messi points at him. And it's like, and Mark was like, oh, he brings it down. So I think we're still trying to navigate this aspect of it, even though it's a slam dunk at points. And the fact that it was Ivan Barton is another sidebar to the whole thing anyway. But I think we're still trying to navigate this. And I didn't see enough of that. That's just me off the top of my head.
Gotcha. Referees are judged heavily on game management.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't speak to the World Cup, but in progressing levels, we tend to want to take that risk sometimes of showing, hey, I don't need to use a card in this moment. I can manage them. And I'm going to show you how by using my personality. That goes a long way in these progressing levels, pathways of being able to see, hey, I can manage a game, I can control a game without having to throw cards out everywhere, just for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And maybe it's something up there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, and we'll keep an eye on it. All right, so my exercise science question for the senior lecturer part of you. Did you get any future lecture topics from the 104 matches that we've been watching? Did anything sit there and pique your interest and go, ooh, I want to go down that rabbit hole and find out what folks are looking at here?
So I was in a strength and conditioning conference a couple weeks ago, and the World Cup topic came up, and I actually didn't realize it until that conversation that all the physical data is public for players throughout the tournament. Every game you can look at and see distances covered. Whole bunch of stuff, heat maps, where the players were. It's fantastic that that's even like public access knowledge. And then I continued, I'm going to go do some looking around, have a look-see, and nothing from the referees. Oh, that's a bummer. And totally fine. I mean, whatever it is. But I thought that would have been really cool because I'm fascinated by how the game changes, how the demands of the game changes. I keep going back to that a lot, I know. But over 10 years ago, when I sort of did my own research on movement patterns in North American professional leagues, MLS, I was interested in what the game was doing there. But now we're looking over 10 years ago. How has it changed? Have the patterns changed? Have we evolved in certain ways? I know, of course, the law has totally been revamped as it continues to. Mm-hmm. How have those demands changed so that we can always make sure that we're staying true to our prescription, matching the demands that we're trying to put them out for? And of course, we scale that to every level. We're trying to get you prepared for a tournament event where you're going to have several games, or we're getting you prepared for one game, one match every match week on the weekend. So getting that piece is another realization that I've had over the couple of weeks. And other than that, though, I wouldn't say anything from the referee's perspective in the World Cup. I haven't seen anything that hit a light bulb up.
But to your point, taking the empirical evidence, and it's got to be out there somewhere from, someone in Lausanne, Switzerland's got to have the data, or whoever the major domo for referee crews is. And they've got to have that data about all of the yards taken, the miles run, adding the heat aspect to it, indoor versus outdoor, angles, shootouts, all that kind of stuff. That's got to be available in Lausanne somewhere, or someone will have been tracking that information. So I think we got our next treasure hunt. I think we do.
It'd be fun. I can tell you in the next, give it a year and a half, 2 years, I expect a publication will come out talking about World Cup demands, referee patterns, something in that vein. There typically is. So there's somebody that does have it.
Well, and we got to find that somebody, and they got to share that intel. As always, my friend, it's great to be able to break bread and hydrate and let everybody know what's going on from your perspective, whether it's exercise science and referees, or philosophy and all that kind of stuff. It's always great to catch up with you. And will we be seeing you on sidelines anytime soon?
I wish I could say yes. Truth be told, at the end of the month, I'm going down for a knee surgery.
Oh,
so you won't be seeing me in there. You'll just be seeing me in booths looking at camera screens. VAR stuff.
And that's another topic for another day. Finding
that
out
would be
how to navigate VAR. That is definitely something that we've got to get into down the line. So if you would please just get through that surgery in one piece. And I know that rehab sucks, and I'm putting it mildly that way. But Kevin, it's always great to see you, my friend. Thanks for the breakdown. And I'm not going to say enjoy surgery. I'll just say enjoy your day and enjoy the hydration now that we're on the flip side of the World Cup, because Women's World Cup's less than a year away.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Listen, it's an honor and a privilege, John. I really appreciate you.
All right. Be good, my friend. And there goes Kevin Huet, Senior Lecturer, Exercise Science at Kennesaw State University. And a hooty hoo to all of him and his friends for breaking everything down there. And Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod coming up next. And we will get Bart's perspective on consistency and what he saw across the tournament, because in the World Cup final, our man in the middle was kind of all over the place. And this is why we bring in Bart to kind of look at laws and things, and we'll get into the cards and such. We'll get into that with Bart. We'll also talk some USMNT with Bart. And then again at 10:30, our friend Glenn Davis is going to be joining us from Houston, and he's going to break down his tournament from the host broadcast perspective. He was all over the place. He was in Los Angeles calling matches, and now he's back home in Houston. We're going to catch up with him and find out what was on his bucket list that he got to check off watching matches, and follow him on his social media. And it's always great to catch up with Glenn to get his perspectives on a couple of different things. We'll start World Cup, and depending on how much time we go, get into Major League Soccer. And Ugo Kuipers looks like he's heading to Monterrey. And you were wondering for half a second if Ugo Kuipers and Robert Lewandowski were going to be of the same roster and the same starting XI. The answer is no. It's Lewandowski's show, and we're all just here to keep an eye on it, which also probably, maybe, just thinking, might open the door a little bit for Leon Goretzka. If you're going to get Kuipers moved to Monterrey, then what are you going to do to fill that space? Because there was talk with Goretzka in addition to Lewandowski, and so maybe that's your Goretzka opening. Hashtag Goretzka opening. So that's kind of what we're staring at here with what's going on in Chicago, and the matchup with Vancouver because of the wildfires in Canada. That has been postponed to October the 6th. So that'll be a Tuesday night, I believe, with schedule compression. So all over the place. No. Oh, Will, thank you for this. Okay, so Impregnable Sledgehammer K. You, sir, or madam, or bot, you're getting blocked first and foremost, and then you're getting reported. No, that's not what I hit. I didn't hit that one. So report. Nothing like a bot on a Monday. And this is what we're going to use for our hydration break here from the Kaiser Permanente studios. Kaiser Permanente, great friends and partners with us here at SDH. Can't thank them enough for everything that they do on a yearly basis, and they've been with us pretty much since day one. So from the Kaiser Permanente studios, we've taken care of our first bot of the week. Morning, Jordan. Morning, Will. Morning, Abby. Abby won the Medio. Wow. And volunteers at the Delta Club at the Benz. You can actually call it that now. You can go back to calling it the Delta Club at the Benz. Abby won the Medio. Wow. So then the bracket challenge, so you won the bracket challenge, not the Medio. Okay, so we need to find out who the Medio winner was. in Picks of the Week in the Discord. So this week is off. starting next week, we're back at it with the Clausura. And so the Clausura, we should have a champion in the Discord for the Medio and for the Apertura. Get your week off, catch your breath, then come back and get ready for the Clausura. So Abby wins the bracket challenge. Jordan always called it the Benz. I saw Jordan, I think I was flying past him at like 900 miles an hour one of the match days. And so I saw Jordan, and it's great to have Jordan and Abby and Will and David in this morning. We see and Ricky, who came in off the top. So it's great to have all of you folks in here this morning to discuss things, the official term. So once again, Bart's going to be joining us here in a sec. We're going to go over some things and some rules and some of the plays that were around in the match from yesterday, and we'll get into Bart's thoughts about the M&T and some guy named Pochettino, who apparently is supposed to be giving his decision this week as to his future when it comes to the USMNT. So 11 months of matches, a little bit more than that when it came to having come in the front door. And the decision's supposed to be this week. And so obviously we'll keep an eye on that as a part of the discussion. So I know that everybody's been fired up this morning about what's been going on yesterday. And we have our champion, the world champion, as it is in Spain. And so it's going to be, that's going to be theirs. And I think it's going to be theirs for a while. Frankly, I think it's going to be theirs for a while. That's just me. That's just my thought. All right. It is actually, shoot. Let me bring Bart in so we can properly hydrate. We have our ways to do things here. So, Bart, you are here this morning, and it's time for the hydration break brought to us by our friends at Local Vine, Beer, Wine, and Liquor Stores. 2 locations in the Atlanta area, Johns Creek and Cumberland, corner of Cumberland Parkway and Cobb Parkway. And their stores are huge, and they have a lot of stuff. Trust me. You go in, they're the king of the impulse buy. If you're an impulse buyer, you're in trouble. Local Vine, Beer, Wine, and Liquor Stores, proud partners with us here in 2026 in SDH. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Full disclosure, I am on my phone this morning because my computer decided to do the dreaded Monday morning you need to update everything.
Oh, no.
So as I see a spinny ball in front of me, I was like, well, got an audible and we're on the phone today.
Oh, good. No worries. You are all good. What you are wearing, we are going to discuss in some detail. But when it comes to the World Cup, I will give you the overarching World Cup 30,000-foot question. So what sticks with you from this particular world competition, not including the United States men's national team? What has stuck with you from this competition?
I think we saw our country finally care about soccer in a meaningful way for the past month and change. Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to caution everyone that does not mean that they're going to all of a sudden show up at all the MLS games or be packing out USL stadiums.
Right.
But what it did show me is that when the lights are on and the big stage is open, they're going to care about soccer. And we have an opportunity next summer to continue to grab onto them. Even 2028, which I know us soccer fans don't view as a real competition, but they don't know. And it's the home Olympics.
Yes.
So I think there are a lot of people who had their appetite for soccer curiosity peaked. They said, oh, this is maybe kind of interesting. And that to me was really special. But more importantly is seeing all of the people who came here from, maybe not came here from another country, but came here with the pride of another country, be it Atlanta or New York, as we saw yesterday, or any of the other host cities, and provided their color, their culture, and their passion to the tapestry that is a network of host sites. And I think that was really special more than anything. Obviously, as a volunteer, I saw them live and in person, and they were, most of them were great. There's only one country that I had any issues with. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But, it was really special to see so many cultures come together in what we always consider our country a great melting pot. But to see them actually come together like this in real time and provide not just something special for us, but something special for them. And this tournament was beautiful to see.
I have the list. of the 48 teams that were in this tournament, 12 of them showed up here in the 8 matches that were here at Atlanta Stadium. Spain, Cabo Verde, Czechia, South Africa, Morocco, Haiti, DR Congo, Uzbekistan, England, Argentina, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. That is a hell of a cross section.
Yeah.
From and having all of these different cultures and all of these different nationalities showing up. And I am incredibly proud for how the area, and I will go larger than the city, because we've known about viewing parties from one end of the state to the other. Here in the Southeast, it was all over the place. Spain has, the national team for Spain has been adopted now by the city of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, they finally got a soccer team.
Monday, man. So Spain completely and totally just they opened their arms. Chattanooga did the same, and you got to see what it meant to a city like Chattanooga, this entire region, to see all of these different diaspora come in, and to see how they were embraced by those of us here in the South and the Southeast. It didn't matter at the end of the day. It's like you're here to watch your team and be happy for your country. The old WSB moniker, welcome South, brother. I mean, that's what you got for 7 weeks. And I'm hoping that the other 45, regardless of what we're talking about, can be implemented in the same way. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Sorry, I had to check your math there for a second. And that's the question. And so I'm sure we'll transition into U.S. soccer, but I think that's the challenge now, is U.S. soccer has seen that you can pack out. I mean, we packed out L.A. twice, Seattle twice, Santa Clara, or wherever that stadium is.
Bay Area. It's
the San Francisco Bay Area.
Levi.
That is not on the Bay.
No.
I think that is now the challenge for U.S. soccer. We can talk MLS at another time. I think there's plenty to whatever.
They're just getting revved up. Yeah.
For U.S. soccer, the challenge now is, how do you do that more often?
Yeah.
We saw it here in Atlanta, 2 sold-out matches. Well, one basically sold out, one sold out. We saw one in Chicago. Charlotte tried. It is possible to bring people to the game and to have them watch the U.S. national team. That's another takeaway I learned, is people do want to support the U.S. national team. Is it just because the USA and they're playing a silly sport? Sure. I mean, it's the same way that we all turned out to watch the hockey team in the Olympics and watch both of them win a gold medal. It's the same reason that we all get psyched because John Schuster hit a 5 in curling in 2018. You know, I mean, we as Americans love competition. We love to watch us win, right? And so the challenge now for U.S. soccer is, how do you get those people to come out more than just once every 4 years? It's possible. Look, unfortunately, you have Women's World Cup qualifying coming up in November, and CONCACAF doesn't give. I think they give a shit. Excuse me.
There's your E for a Monday.
They don't give 2, but they give 1 because they barely do anything for it. And so U.S. soccer, and hopefully Canada soccer and the Mexican Football Federation, maybe they push CONCACAF to say, hey, what if we made our events actually meaningful and stop playing a Gold Cup every 7 months and stop playing a Nations League every 3 weeks? Yeah. What if we actually made our competitions meaningful so that fans wanted to come out and understood the importance of them? That's my biggest regret right now, and it's not mine, but there are reasons to latch on to these teams, and there are reasons to go support the U.S. soccer teams. U.S. soccer's got to do their job of making people realize the importance. So hopefully we see more people at U.S. soccer games going forward.
Well,
that's my goal.
Yeah, and I think that part of this also is making sure that you're using more than just 1 or 2 pages inside the Rand McNally that you have in the office. You want to have it in places where you haven't been in a while. You want to have, I would love to have friendlies, / qualifying tournaments or whatever. If you are in if you are in a market that you have not been in a while, either men's or women's, to have it in that market instead of going to the same places over and over again. And yes, it turns into a default idea for fans of the national teams. Okay, so I know I'm going to St. Louis. I know I can spend this amount of money. I know it's in the middle of the country. I know I can catch a flight here, do this, do this. I think that if you were to go, if you had just as an idea, and I know a lot of it has to do with logistics of stadia and things like that. If it could work out in the schedule where you could have an appropriate friendly or a qualifier downtown at the stadium formerly known as Atlanta from our footprint. If you could have a friendly or a qualifier or something like that at MBS, considering that we are the home of the Arthur M. Blank U.S. National Training Center, you have the big teams play in the big house on the big side of town. Don't tell me for a second you couldn't have that lower bowl of 41K sold out for something like that. And then you'd have to open up the upper deck. Make it a little bit more varietous, if that's a word, where you're having all of these matches instead of the same spots all the time. And then also make it a little bit less cost prohibitive when you're walking in the door. I'd rather have a full house of 41 and make sure I know what my gate is instead of sitting there and putting it in a big barn of 70 and only having 28 there, and it's cavernous at points.
Yeah, John, there were okay, I did math and now I forgot what the math was, but more than half of the country, by that I mean states in this country, did not see a World Cup match, or excuse me, a U.S. men's match during this past cycle.
Okay.
The U.S. women filled that in a little bit more, but for only one or two states.
Okay.
I mean, for example, we haven't played in Michigan in what feels like my lifetime.
Okay.
Men or women.
Where would you play?
I mean, this is the question, John. This is the debate that I get into with people all the time.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. I would like for the U.S. soccer peoples to find more locations to play in.
Right.
However, that's the question you just asked. Right? Where'd you play?
Yeah.
I mean, why not play at Ford Field? Oh, well, there's turf and it's inside and all these things. I get that. But do you want to put 60,000 in Ford Field and, maybe you can lay down grass? I don't know what the actual cost is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But there are plenty of places now as we see soccer growing at the lower levels, right, where you could possibly find more places to play.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the issue, and our sisters to the west, Birmingham no longer has a natural grass surface. Right, Protective is turf.
Yes.
Protective is, to me, I mean, a perfect stadium. You look at how much they play up in Pratt and Whitney.
Yeah.
It's basically the same type of stadium, 47,000-ish. But because you now have turf, that becomes a problem. So there are logistical obstacles, but I think I would like for U.S. soccer to try a little harder and not be so afraid. You have to find a stadium that can literally fit a soccer field. You're not playing in Arkansas because neither War Memorial or Walmart and Co., whatever they call it up there in Fayetteville, neither of those can hold a soccer field, right? It just is. Even in Alabama, I was looking yesterday because rabbit holes were gone down. The stadium formerly known as Lad Peebles down in Mobile is now a turf field because USA got some money and decided to put some money in their football program. Those obstacles kind of hurt. And honestly, I think Mobile would be a fun place to play a U.S. national team game, especially if you did that in, if you had a window line up with Mardi Gras. That'd be great. But it is hard. I just wish that we could find ways to make it a little more likely to happen. Can we? I'm sure there are ways to do it. But maybe this influx of money, maybe that you got through the World Cup, you can expand your reach a little bit. We haven't played in Wisconsin in forever either.
Oh, could you imagine jump around at the hydration break in the second?
But that's the issue, John, is Camp Randall's not large enough. But could you play in Milwaukee at the baseball stadium. I know it's not ideal, but you could play it there. Same with Detroit. Could you play at Comerica? Or whatever they call it now, the Tigers.
I know where you're
you know, that's the problem, because then people get mad, oh, you're playing on a baseball field.
And
so
yeah.
as American soccer fans, as U.S. soccer fans,
Yeah.
we have to be willing to let go a little bit of the purity of the sport. And I know that's going to make people cringe in the comments, but do you want to bring more people to the game, literally and theoretically?
Yeah.
Or do you want to hold on to it and say, no, this is ours and we do it this way? Because that's been the tension that I've seen online a lot is, and listen, the tension is we're here.
Mhm.
People want to come in and they keep saying, oh, well, could you meet us over here? No, you can meet us over here, but we got to be able to meet them a little bit too.
Yeah.
Not in the middle, because it's our sport. We ain't asking football to change things just to bring more people in, right? But as soccer fans, we have to be willing to concede a little bit. We have to be willing to understand that some people may not quite see it the same way we do. And if you want the sport to grow, if you want more people to be invested and involved full time, you're going to have to make a few concessions.
Yeah. There's supposed to be a decision made this week. At least that's what we're told. Does your gut have you going any way or the other?
I'm caught in two minds on this, John, because I think we've had this conversation a couple times. I don't like a second cycle head coach for a national team, unless you're Luis de la Fuente. Or like, seriously, or Thomas Christensen down in Panama. Like there are exceptions of that. The thing is, I do kind of think Pochettino was doing a little bit of the Thomas Christensen thing, where he was building a program in a style that could be seen as, to an extent, a very American style.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite South American. It definitely wasn't quite European. And I think those are obviously our two major influences here in the U.S., where we have guys with British accents who think they're the smartest things that's ever existed in the world of soccer because they invented the game, but they can only win it when they play at home. And then you have those guys making organized soccer happen. But then you have South American and Latin American folks who come in and make unorganized soccer such a great place to play. And we talk about tension. That seems to be the tension in U.S. soccer as a whole. You have organized soccer that costs a whole lot of money because some Brits need to get paid to share their wealth of knowledge, sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have unorganized soccer where the joy and the passion of Latino population thrive.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get those to come together? Anyway, to Pochettino.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love a second cycle head coach. However, I do think that he didn't get a full cycle. And so if they did keep him, I could understand it. However, there's always going to be that looming question, John.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, AC Milan's job is open. Is he going to go take it? Oh, look. I mean, even jobs like, Boa Vista doesn't exist anymore.
No, but yeah.
Lyon or oh my goodness, look at the fact that Tottenham fired their 8th manager in 5 months. That could happen.
Yeah.
It's that question's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh, Man United is suddenly open again.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't know if I want to deal with. Now, can you build in a hell of a buyout? Absolutely. But do you want to deal with the fact that you might lose your manager, not just mid-cycle, but like next summer?
Yeah.
Right. And is he going to stick around for a Gold Cup? I don't know how that would work. So I lean toward let's just go find another manager. But
yeah,
who is that going to be?
Right.
And right now, when I look at the selection of American managers, I'm not like super thrilled.
Yeah.
I do think you could possibly, in the wake of this World Cup, find some of the national team managers that maybe overperformed a little bit or played in a way that you liked. Maybe you go interview one of them.
Yeah.
But I just don't know, because I don't really see a coaching selection out there that gets to the level of Pochettino, and that's the question also for U.S. Soccer. Are you able and willing to pay $6 million a year or whatever it was that he was making? And sure, you got hedge fund managers back, paying his salary, I think is how it ended up. But are you willing and able to do that for another 4 years? Is it worth it? Because you did it because of a home World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I lean toward he's not coming back, period. I just lean toward he's not coming back. That's not a whether I want him or not. I just lean toward he's not coming back.
Yeah. Then along those lines, if we walk this path, Glenn Davis set to join us in about 10 minutes. If we walk this path, then my question is, if he stays, yes, then for me, I didn't consider his year plus a full cycle anyway. So
No, I don't. I'm with you.
For me, it's like when the vice president takes over and then he runs for re-election and he gets elected. It's not a full term when the vice president takes over.
Right.
For the tail end of a presidential term, he gets elected. And so for me, it's like it's a 1+. So it's not a full 2. Then along those lines, yes, I know I would put in a hell of a buyout, especially if something comes open. I would do that. The problem for me is this. If he does not come back, taking everything that he has built philosophically, emotionally, everything inside that deals with the crest, then you're risking a complete and total teardown again, and then having to rebuild unless you find someone who is what I'm referring to as Pochettino adjacent.
Which is a problem, John, because it's not like he has a lot of disciples out there in the world, right? Like he's notoriously like he's not a guy who has. He's not a Bielsa by any stretch.
The coaching tree isn't there,
right? Yeah. And that's just by how he designs it. All of the guys who work with him are basically his guys. It's not like he's spawning new coaches or guys stay behind or players that played for him are coaching now. Right. So yeah, that's a legitimate fear, and that's what I'm at too. Is okay. But I would also say I don't think he built a whole lot, and I don't mean that to take away from anything he did or said, but in the wake of the Nations League fallout, because remember, it wasn't the Copa America fallout that he started doing all these changes. It was the Nations League debacle in 2025, where he said, "Screw it, we're turning over every stone possible, to try to find and create competition."
Right,
which is what he did. And what did that leave us? Nothing against him, but it left us with basically like the same guys that we knew we were going to have. I mean, there were some fringe guys who maybe made it that, he obviously, I think Arston and Berhalter were guys that he found. You can credit him for Freeman. I think Freeman would have wound up there anyway, but Freeman's one of those. And that's nothing against, that's not saying he didn't, find those and those are good guys, but the reality is our player pool is our player pool. And you're going to have basically the same guys coming up next year that we have now. Maybe there are a lot of young whippersnappers in MLS. And I literally say that because like New York Red Bulls has like 17 guys under the age of 18 that maybe could start playing for the national team as soon as September. But it's not that he didn't build anything. He did build an identity. He built a culture. That's great. I don't think that's exclusive to Pochettino. That we're going to fight. We're going to battle for every ball. There are some ways that we played that were very, Pochettino. But even then, it wasn't like a full-on, this is Mauricio Pochettino team. So I get what you're saying. I think that if you get a manager close to the level of Pochettino, you're going to get a lot of those things coming back. And I think that's just where, for U.S. Soccer, you're probably looking at a guy who probably isn't Mauricio Pochettino, but are you able to get a guy who has some success at the club level, who has a more up-tempo, high-pressing style of play? Can you bring that in? And I think that's really what you're looking for.
So then is that part of the rationale as we piece the puzzle together that you brought in Steve Cherundolo to be the U20?
No, I said up tempo, high pressing.
Well, it depends on the talent that's there. I mean,
no. So I do think, well, okay. I know a lot of people had that fear. I understand why people are afraid that U.S. Soccer is just going to hire another dude who played for U.S. Soccer. He's under contract through the Olympics, and I just don't think that you would do that to then have him take over for 2030. If I'm U.S. Soccer, why wouldn't you want to hire a guy that you know is going to be there for the full cycle if everything goes well? Yeah. Obviously, reports are saying we may get another Copa America here at home. But, I think in theory, you want to try to play in Copa America again in 2028. That would be great. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's somewhere in South America where the tournament belongs. If things don't go well there, then yeah, you're absolutely saying we got to get out of there. But just because you hire Steve Cherundolo doesn't mean you're going to have success at the Olympics. Now, I think you hired Cherundolo because you do want a successful Olympics in 2028. I think that is a clear statement of intent. But I don't think that's a statement that he's going to be the next U.S. senior national team manager. Now, he could be, but I don't think that has anything to do with this cycle personally. Okay. I don't think you would hire a guy to not hire him for 4 years at the senior national team spot.
Okay. All right, so it's just I'm trying to think of all the lanes of traffic here, and would Cherundolo be your emergency break glass, or is it line of succession or anything like that? So,
I mean, yeah, but again, that would be if things don't go well with the guy that you hired to be your 4-year manager. So.
No, and I mean, like I said, I was just skipping the line. I was like, well, if Pochettino says that I'm good, thanks for the run, I'm great, then you since there's nothing going on the men's national team level, you have Cherundolo go for a while, have him go through whatever the marker is.
No, what did us in this cycle, John, was about 17 games of not having a real coach. Okay. And I mean that sincerely.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And you need to avoid that at all costs. So yes.
You bring in BJ Callahan. Is BJ Callahan your guy?
No.
Okay.
And nothing against BJ at all. You can't go from Mauricio Pochettino to BJ Callahan. You just can't.
And that was why I brought up Pochettino adjacent as
you could bring in Cherundolo, and that would just, I think that, no offense to BJ, but the dude played internationally, played at multiple World Cups, has a history of a career in Germany. BJ seems to be a very good coach. And he did pretty well with the national team when he was in charge, when he was, stepdad of the stepdad.
Right.
But
the substitute teacher.
Being the substitute of the substitute is very different than being the dude who is setting, like, full on setting the tempo, setting the culture, setting the game plan for the national team. Mm-hmm. He's doing great things in Nashville, except apparently when they play Atlanta at home and they can't do anything except for one cross where we don't decide to mark anyone. But it does not look good. I'm sorry. Optics matter right now. They really do. To go from Mauricio Pochettino to BJ Callahan.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah. So what's the next Soccer for USPOD?
We're going to try to record this week, John, but the problem is I still have tickets to that game in Charlotte that I'm trying to get out of, and I just don't know if I want to bite the bullet on and take the hit to my season ticket holder account. I don't know yet. So hopefully we're recording this week. If not, we'll record next week of our thoughts, wrapping up all the World Cup stuff.
Yes, and it is let's see, it is episode CL, I believe, still.
Yeah, it'll be full on episode 150. So it'll definitely be the World Cup is over. How do we feel about it? So
150 Soccer for USPOD.
And then we have like a long break, John. We don't have a national team game until like literally the fourth to last game in September. And then we have like a lot because we have 4 men's games and then 2 women's games in like a 3-week space.
Well, and that's the fun part of this whole thing is that when you have things and then you don't have things, that's always great. As always, my friend, great to see you. I didn't know if we were going to go down a philosophical road or not, but we did. It's always great to see you, and we will catch up with you on the flip side of episode 150.
Have fun talking to Glenn Davis.
Oh, we always do. There he goes. There's Bart. And so that means one thing. Since it is, in fact, well, it's almost 10:30 Eastern. It's almost 10:30 Eastern. So we always do the proper introduction for our next guest, and because it is that time, here it is.
Hey, Glenn Davis here in Houston, Texas. A big fan of soccer down here. And remember, soccer matters.
Because it does. And oh, he got his notes. He's ready to go. All right, let me bring him in here. It's always fun to catch up with our friend Glenn Davis. You got your notes there, bud?
I got some good facts here that I'd like to bring up. But anyway.
The Houston Hurricane pennant. That's clutch. I love that.
Yeah, somebody gave that to me. That's Houston Hurricanes played in the Astrodome. That would have been in the 70s. Before that, in the 60s, we had the Houston Stars. And I think we've talked about this already, so I don't want to repeat myself.
Oh, it's all good. No, look, you're talking to a guy who has a California Surf T-shirt, Glenn.
I had friends who played on that team.
I mean, that was the California Surf was the first game I ever saw when they played. It was the Surf, and they played the Dips in Anaheim when Anaheim was closed. And when it was a closed stadium, it didn't have the rocks and everything. And so Bill Irwin was in net for the Dips. The Surf were playing in Anaheim, and I dragged my dad to the game because it was just up the road. And that was one of the first games I ever saw. It's like the first game I saw here was the Chiefs and the Dips. First game I saw out on the West Coast was the Surf and the Dips. So
Bill Irwin, by the way, was a teammate for 1 year of mine here in Houston in the 80s. And I mean, obviously, Bill went on to an exceptional coaching career, worked with Clive Charles, Portland, youth national teams on the women's side. We called him the gentle giant, the quiet man, like John Wayne, because he was a big, tall guy, but just a wonderful guy.
Yep, and so that was going into the Wayback Machine for me. I wanted to bring you in, because it's been too damn long since you've been here. And you got to do some field tripping. Please tell me that when you were doing the stuff for the World Cup, you got the miles and points that were associated with said travel when you got to.
Well, if there's miles and points awarded for driving 3 miles to a stadium from the house and the bed that you're sleeping in, I guess I got a lot of them.
Mileage, bud, mileage.
Yeah, I did the 7 games here in Houston. I did one trip to do the quarterfinals. Actually, I did the Belgium-Spain game, so I got to do the World Champions in one game in the quarters, and actually, that was the only game they conceded a goal to Belgium. So, yeah, it's been an unbelievable experience. It's an 8th World Cup for me. I did color on this. I was an analyst on this. That's how I broke in originally. People probably know me more doing play-by-play, but it's just exceptional. The way the events were run, I know it was the same thing in Atlanta. It just looked spectacular.
I do have a Houston question coming up in a bit, but since you mentioned Spain, we've been talking a lot about Spain. We talked about Spain last night on Atlanta Soccer Tonight. I talked about them this morning and just how dominant they were defensively. And the numbers are insane considering that you saw the de Keeler goal. You saw a piece of history. You saw a piece of history in this World Cup. The only goal that they gave up in the knockouts was to de Keeler. And how dominant a performance was this by Spain on both sides of the ball to win a title?
Oh, boy, I think we could go on and on. I think what's amazing to me is obviously it's a possession team. I'm sure all your guests have told that. They're the best team in the world in possession. They have a pressing and a repressing game, which keeps the game high up the field. The old adage is, you have the ball, the opponent can't score. I think that certainly is worthy with Spain. But I think we go a little deeper, and we have to begin to speak a little bit about the word positional. Every guy on that team has options always. Everybody who's ever played the sport of soccer have been in a game where they got a ball and they got put under pressure and they picked their head up and there was nobody there making an angle for them and supporting them. And you're yelling, "Hey guys, come on, support me. Somebody come to the ball," or you get mad at your teammate. I mean, I remember it playing in what were the pro leagues in the 80s, being upset at a midfielder who didn't show and didn't come to me and left me in a little bit of trouble because I was not adept at dribbling and getting out of pressure like every Spanish player was. But the options they constantly have, the confidence they have on the ball, razor sharp technique, it's a belief. It's ingrained in young kids in Spain, in a small country, from birthright, and this commonality of the way the game is approached culturally and played. It plays out. And I would just say this. we have 3 other traditional sports, and we got everybody doing their own thing in a lot of ways in this country. And that's what makes it difficult for us to create a culture and define a style of play, maybe with the U.S. national team.
And before you came on, we were having the discussion about Mauricio Pochettino and the decision that he has. Apparently, it's going to be made this week, and we can put a bookmark in that and have that as a part of it. It's like we're adding topics here as we're going this morning. Shutting down Argentina the way that they did. I know that a lot of folks are sitting there and they're saying it was because, well, Argentina was playing, negative or whatever terminology you want to use. It was, I would posit it's because Spain was so dominant defensively in counter-pressing and making sure that life was hell. It was almost like Nolan Richardson was coaching Spain. It was 90 minutes of hell for Argentina and for anybody that was playing against them in this tournament, where they weren't letting anyone breathe. It was impossible to get things moving to where you were in a positive position going up against Spain. I thought it was tremendous work by Luis de la Fuente.
Yeah, I mean, look, they just did 2 games in a row where, like a giant python, wrapped themselves around an opponent, squeezed them into submission, had them tap out, and to think Argentina would not have a singular shot, not only in the first 90 minutes, but a couple of minutes into the extra, time, added time, is pretty unbelievable. I'm very disappointed in Argentina's approach, because I'm all for, the balls of Argentina. We play with balls, all that, I love that about Argentina. I love their passion for the flag. They took it too far in this game. It's very sad to me, because it was Messi's probably his last World Cup game. I never say anything about him, but it was sad to see him go out and have such little influence. Flip side of that is, though, to have watched Spain just choke out the life of some of the top strikers in the world. And basically that's by denying them the ball because of all the things we just mentioned. It was really remarkable. Now, people can say, it's a lousy final and all that. No, it's not. Not if you're Spain. And, I don't like the way Spain plays. It's boring. Oh, yeah. You know what's more boring? A team that just wants to commit fouls and sit back and defend deep. And I do think part of what occurred is, obviously, you have to compliment Spain and their pressing and repressing game. And that's a tactic they took off the 2010 team.
What else, you since you brought your research with you, what else are the greatest?
Well, most of this is just who won awards.
Yeah.
Which that's all I have.
Well, but I mean, and if you think about it, I mean, Kubarsi is 19.
Mm-hmm. Love him.
And to be a center back that is as in control as he is at 19, he's going to be there for a while.
So part of what happened with Kubarsi was when Barcelona, and by the way, this team was made up of a lot of Barcelona players, and there's a lot of upset people because no Real Madrid players were on the original roster. Mm-hmm. But Kubarsi got accelerated at Barcelona because of the financial problems.
Yeah.
So he started getting lots and lots of games. I mean, I look at that kid and I go, well, first I think about myself at 19 and I'm like, oh, I wasn't quite that mature. But the other thing is I just love watching him play. I played as a center back the majority of the time I played soccer. Just to see his calm and his composure, all the other responsibilities you have. And that's a big mental game. And listen, they're all a part of the build. And the center backs have to be alive all the time. But it is a mental game also to be positionally sound, to protect space and all kinds of things potentially in transition. So I was so glad to see him win that award. I was so glad to see Rodri win the award because to me, you picked 2 of the big focal points of this team and that were non-negotiables. That these 2 guys had to play extremely well and did.
And you got to see Rodri at 100%. You know what he means to what a 100% Rodri meant to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. You got to see when he wasn't healthy what he meant to Manchester City and the gaps that were there for them as they were continuing to chase titles. And 100% Rodri on the international stage, to add to what we were talking about with Kubarsi, that to me, you sit there, it's like, yep, that's why. That is, if you were to sit there and put it in under glass and sell it for like $40 on eBay, that would be what you're staring at when it comes to Rodri. That's why he's there.
When I watch Spain, it's funny because I'm trying to watch everything, but I notice my eyes get drawn to just watching him.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to me yesterday in the World Cup final. I'm watching him. I'm watching his movement. You know, we all say, well, you just man mark him. I hear ex-players, oh, just man mark him. Yeah. And then I say, yeah. And everybody's probably thought of that, and it seems to never happen. Same thing with Messi. Well, you just got to man mark him. And it's like every game he gets tons of the ball, and every game he hurts people, except yesterday. And he's just amazing to watch. He's a constant outlet. His choices with the ball, his switching the point of attack, his engagement, his breaking plays up. I mean, this is an all-action midfielder. He's got everything, but he plays like so effortlessly. It's like, I don't remember him sprinting yesterday. I mean, it's just weird. It's just amazing how comfortable and easy it is for him. And I think that also has to do with the systems he's plugged into, because he's the focal point. You might think it's Jamal, but it's him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to have a center of the spoke. You got to have the spoke in the center of the wheel somewhere, and to have that to make sure that everyone functions. That's Rodri when it comes to Spain. You mentioned Messi, and to think about this tournament on the whole, I'm not going to put anything past him, but I'll put him in this mix. The last tournament for Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, James, Modric. Who else am I missing here?
De Bruyne.
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne. All of these heavyweights that came through one final time, we're not going to have them anymore on the international stage. It was crazy to think about all of these guys that have meant so much to the game over the last, well, really 2 decades. And we got to see them one final time, and they're all going at the same time internationally. It was crazy to me when you had that list.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some we're probably missing here. I mean, I don't know if you put Lukaku in that same room, but he's going to be done. But there are a lot of other players that you're thinking about. I mean, I guess Neymar, but I didn't really consider Neymar a part of this World Cup, honestly. And I don't put him in the same room as Messi and Ronaldo and those. Extremely talented, don't get me wrong, but I think he doesn't rank where those guys rank, in my humble opinion. But yeah, it is sad, and I think it's a reminder of we really were able to watch, this sport in some of the great golden ages. No question, watching these guys operate, and Modric, by the way, still effective at his age as well.
How was Houston as a market for the World Cup? We saw it blowing up, but I know that since you were there, full bore. Germany, Curacao, Portugal, DR Congo, Netherlands, Sweden, Portugal, Uzbekistan, Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Japan, round of 32, Canada, Morocco, round of 16. How did Houston respond to having the World Cup?
Well, if we're talking about in the stadium, I got to witness it, so it's firsthand comments coming back here, because I was in a commentary position every game. We had to be there very early, so you could watch everybody getting organized, from everybody working, the volunteers, to media trying to get positioned where they need to be for the game, and buses coming in, players walking in, all the things that are happening underneath the stadium. It's, as anybody knows, the execution of these games is a difficult thing. And I tell you what, it was absolutely flawless here. And then you see the stadium begin to get bigger and bigger, and the screens, just like in Atlanta, you see the team bus and guys getting off at the hotel. The whole presentation was great, up to the anthems with the giant flags. It was just fantastic. And from that standpoint, 10 out of 10. Absolute 10 out of 10.
And then how did the city in itself respond to it? Because I know that you were busy doing a lot of stuff, showcasing the city off to the rest of us who have never been there or never got to see it. How was the city outside of the venue when it came to presentation, welcoming aspect, all that kind of stuff?
I think we were very similar in this category of showing people a great time, being really open and having fun with all the visitors that came from around the world. I mean, I think we see all the content where people are just saying we had an amazing time. Americans are great people. The hospitality was fantastic. All these things were a home run in Houston. From what I understand, it's all good stuff. at the games, I saw people unified, getting together, and really setting just a wonderful bar of excitement and connection to the game. It's such a great opener, right? And I think a lot of times the world gets fed most of the time, bad stuff about us. So it was very prideful from my personal perspective to see everybody here just having a great time, and they're trying hamburgers and things that, it's just like us. If we went to a foreign country, we'd be trying food and going, holy, this is amazing food. But everybody be looking at, man, look at these crazy Americans. They love this food, and it's like stuff we eat every day. So anyway, a lot of that was really fun. I think from a business perspective, the businesses that got out ahead of this and invested in soccer and the World Cup ahead of time are the ones that thrived. I think the ones that came in at the last minute did not thrive.
Yeah.
In certain parts of our downtown, they did not thrive. The moral of the story is you can't hang a banner outside your establishment when you've got established sort of soccer bars and pubs and places. I would say, though, the future for businesses in Houston and then around the country, with the amount of money being spent by people that love this game, get in the game.
Exactly. Our friend Glenn Davis hanging out with us here. Soccer matters, because we always know that soccer matters, and we always want to catch up with our friend Glenn out in Houston. We gave him an extra hour to sleep in this morning. Traditionally, he's our 9:30 guest. Gave him to 10:30 this morning.
Wish I could sleep in.
That's all. Hey, yeah, you and me both, brother. I can't. I've been on like 4 hours of sleep a night for this entire tournament, and I haven't turned those hours since college. Yeah. And I am a hurting man.
You don't come across to me, John, as a sleep-in type of guy.
Oh, I'm an 8-hour dude. I am an 8-hour.
I have you too, though, where I'm grumpy.
I am not a morning person. I don't kick in till about 2 in the afternoon. So you have someone who's not a morning person hosting a morning show. How does that? That's like my BS coefficient.
You do just fine.
My BS coefficient is very, very low since I'm 708 years old. You got to see a lot of teams coming through there in Houston. When it came to all of those teams, who was someone that was a pleasant surprise? Was there a team that was a pleasant surprise to you that walked in the door that you might have known about in research, but then when you finally got to see him, first and foremost, you're like, hey, wow, this is really cool. What were some of the cool factors for you?
And that's the beauty of being a commentator, because you have to take a deeper dive on these teams. I think a lot of people saw Morocco play, didn't understand that 23 out of 26 on the roster were born in Belgium, France, and they're dual nationals. I think a lot of people forget Argentine players are all born in Argentina. These things make a difference in culture and in winning and losing games sometimes. You can make an argument for that. But I would say, we had so many we had Portugal here, we had Germany here, we had the Netherlands here with the march. But from an on-field perspective, I loved the Congo. Mm-hmm. The Congo went down to Portugal. It was a big hype game. Every single person in the stadium had a Cristiano Ronaldo shirt on. And by the way, I quizzed some of these people. Most of them were not from Portugal. Yeah, I saw this lady who had this giant Portuguese hat. And the stuff that she did to put her costume together for this game, it was like a Broadway designer backstage, right? So I was on the aisle, and I just said to her, I said, wow, that's an amazing costume you have. What part of Portugal are you from? And she looks at me and smiles and goes, oh, I'm from Honduras. So I think that was a real phenomenon, because it seemed to me that people wearing the Portugal jersey were there for Ronaldo and not the team. But the Congo went behind in that game. Mm-hmm. And this is the very first game for Portugal, the vaunted midfield, Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, all these great players. Everybody's saying the best midfield in the tournament, potentially, which I don't think is an untrue statement. And they were in a low block. They got breached off a cross. And then they said to themselves right away, we are not going to sit back. We're going after the goal. And they started taking the game the rest of the half to Portugal. And they were big, strong, and athletic. They had Johan Vise, who people know from playing over in Europe, doing some amazing things. And they equalized. And then in the second half, they dropped back to their original tactics they were going to employ and got a draw. But I really, that was a really cool performance, and it was really brave of them to go after a tying goal right away, as opposed to, a lot of teams that would sit back the entire game and hope to nick it in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think when you look at what Sebastian de Saab did in this tournament, and they didn't flinch. They didn't care who was on the other side, the other half. It's just like, look, we're here. We're going to do our thing. We're going to chase after it. You've got Wan-Bissaka was a part of the back line, I believe.
Yeah.
And so you have experienced players in the Big Five leagues, like you mentioned, Wan-Bissaka and Wan-Bissaka. They know what it's like to be on a big stage. There was no intimidation. Axel Tuanzebe, I think, was another one that was a part of that. So they weren't intimidated by a big stage. And de Saab, I think he hit every note just about right when it came to coaching. And 9 of the 10 teams that qualified from the African continent made it into the knockouts, which was another cool thing for me, is that you had that contingent making the inroads that they did.
Yep, no question about it. And, that's another thing that people, the Congo, well, immediately they get dismissed. And then you look at the roster, to your point, and they're all guys with a lot of guys with tremendous experience. So they were a really fun story. But, we had a real shootout with the Netherlands and Sweden. The Dutch at that point did not have a designated striker. Well, in that game, Broby stepped up, scored a pair of goals in the first 17 minutes. And you're kind of sitting there going, okay, we're believers now, Netherlands. You found your striker. How far can you take this thing? And then, of course, they struggled and employed some very strange Ronald Koeman tactics that were very un-Dutch-like against Morocco. I was sitting at home going, is this by design, or is this because Morocco is absolutely just pinning them back? And it took me about 10 minutes to come to what I thought was the correct conclusion. Mm-hmm. So that was bizarre. To see Germany roll in, before the tournament got going, Curacao gets their first ever goal. Ronaldo scores in a, we all knew Ronaldo would score against Uzbekistan, but for the most part, I think Portugal was a team that might have been, the Ronaldo fans are going to get very mad at me, but I think they were a team that was subservient to a singular player. Mm-hmm. I mean, Gonzalo Ramos, mm-hmm. you're going, geez, mm-hmm. Where could we have gone if that guy was there? Mm-hmm. You don't know. How dare I say that about Ronaldo, right?
Harumph, exactly. No, it's we are a part of the congregation of the Church of Glen Davis. We agree with you on that one, because you could tell the difference in that team when they were having the issues trying to be subservient to Cristiano Ronaldo, and then when they weren't. It was just entirely two different things. It's like, yeah, we think we need to feed him, and you look completely and totally out of sync. It's like you put regular gas into an unleaded gas tank. It was not something that functioned the way that it should have been, and you heard all the knocks and pings all the way down the road before the transmission dropped.
Well, I think what people forget sometimes is coaches have to get the star player on their side, number one.
Yeah.
And number one, that star player who literally could run for president of Portugal and win.
Yep.
He would win.
Mm-hmm.
And he has more social media support and followers in the world than anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that can even seep into the mind of the player. If I want to go to the World Cup, I got to get on CR7's best side.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of smiling a little bit when everybody said, oh, what a brave decision. Roberto Martinez is subbing out Cristiano Ronaldo. And I'm going, it's not that brave. He's already scored a penalty. If there was ever a time to do it, that's the time to do it. But then you come to find out, and I don't know what the conclusion of this is, that Roberto Martinez is a candidate to be and is negotiating with Al Nasser in Saudi Arabia, which would make him Ronaldo's coach in Saudi Arabia, make him an even wealthier man. So in the case of Roberto Martinez, his wagon is hitched to CR7. I don't think any question.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One more question for you, my friend, this time around before we invite you back to just talking, I guess, look, you know where the key is under the mat. You know where the garage door opener is anyway. You can
you guys do too.
The field of 48, what did you think initially? And were your thoughts either confirmed or flipped from the field of 48 this time around?
I think that's a great question for a lot of people. And I think I was on this show and I said, what are we doing? We're attacking the sacredness of the World Cup. We're expanding. The Champions League may one day be more important. And I will say that I have moved a little bit in the other direction, but that's with keeping the 64-team World Cup out of this conversation. I like the stories. I like the teams that were storylines of getting into this tournament. For the most part, they were all competitive, and in some cases more competitive than many people thought. I thought it added a lot. 72 games got whipped off pretty quickly. At the end of the day, the cream of the crop kind of rose. But I think, you're going to have to be careful with this in the future. And I think we've only underlined and highlighted the fact that huge TV ratings, huge money, more content, more obviously commercial entertainment. Was not a big fan of the halftime show. Madonna should have been, retired about 20 years ago. I got to tell you, this guy Chris Martin of Coldplay, he deserves a little healthy criticism for his choices. The only one I really liked was Shakira, but everybody else, I don't know. But maybe I'm just too old. I was hoping Led Zeppelin was going to come out of the sky and rip into A Whole Lot of Love.
Oh man, that would have been fantastic.
That's not happening. No guitars allowed on a halftime show.
I was right there with you on Shakira, and I looked at Jason and Maddie, and I was like, and one of the other groups would pop up, and it's like, is that K-pop? And they go, yes. Just nod, smile, and move forward. I'm like, yep.
Oh, that was K-pop. Okay. Well, then not as. I know K-pop is popular. I like Shakira because I just think she has a happy, fun, great personality. She's obviously incredibly talented, and she meshes great with the world of football. That was Chris Martin's saving grace, Shakira. She better get paid triple.
You ain't kidding, brother. All right, if you would please, sir, hit the promo for me and let everybody know how they can catch up with you 24/7, 365.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Davis Sock. You can stream the show in Houston. There's no punches pulled on this show, just like Soccer Down Here. It's ESPN975.com for the stream. It's every Tuesday at 6 Central Time and Wednesday at 6 Central Time. And so we've had a lot of fun with this World Cup. I know you have. Congratulations on all the efforts you guys have put in. And then we'll see you in 4 years, hopefully.
Yeah, and we'll see you sooner than that. As always, my friend, love you very much, and we'll catch up with you soon. Great to catch up with you on a Monday.
John, you're the man. Thank you so much.
There he goes, Glenn Davis. And now we're going to bring him in a little early. It's a hot tag. It's a Monday, and we're going all over the place. Today and tomorrow, we're doing something incredibly special. And it is catching up with a program that is being built from scratch. And we get to catch up with the coaches firsthand as they are building said programs from absolute zero. We're going to Tuskegee and to find out what's going on with Coach Matthew Tarpley, the head coach of Tuskegee's men's soccer program. Coach, thanks for dropping by. This is a special treat for us.
Thank you so much, John. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I'm happy to be here.
So for those that may not know, this is a runway that is leading into the launch of something. Season number 1, absolutely from scratch. I'm going to go back all the way to the beginning. What was it that attracted you to this gig to where, yeah, I want to be a part of something really special?
Yeah, I mean, Tuskegee is such a special university, right? The university it's a brand name. It stands on its own. The history and the tradition of the university, going all the way back to, Booker T. Washington is the first president at the age of 25. The university being founded in 1881. So soccer is long overdue here at the university. And when I first started hearing rumors that the university was thinking about starting their programs, I was immediately intrigued, right? The opportunity to make history at such a historic university, was just more than I could ask for. So I'm really excited to be here. Can't wait for the season to get started. We're ready to go.
And for those that may not know, you have a background in Alabama High School, just down the road at Tallahassee. and building the Tallahassee Tigers. And I have a friend of mine who is part of the folks that probably covered you on a daily basis there. Michael Butler over at WTLS. He's a great,
Michael.
Great friend of mine. And you took a program there in the AHSAA and you turned them around and was able to have them as a force in Alabama high school. Have you always thought of yourself as a builder of programs, or was this just an opportunity where at Tuskegee you're like, man, yeah, this is something I can't pass up?
I think so. John, I was at Smith Station High School, which is a large 7A school, very established, back in the 2012, 2013 kind of years, and heard a rumor that a new high school was starting in Montgomery. The principal there reached the administrator. And so I moved to Park Crossing High School in Montgomery, Alabama, and started that soccer program from nothing when the school opened. So that was my first kind of rebuild and startup. And then, yes, sir, I went over to Tallahassee, and Michael Butler is amazing. I took over a program at Tallahassee that was 1-10 the year before I arrived.
Yeah.
And in 3 short years, we were in the state semifinals up in Huntsville. So very, very happy and proud of the work we did at Tallahassee to turn that program around and get them pointed in the right direction. We've won 20 matches for 3 years in a row now at Tallahassee. So to come from 1-10 to 20-6, it's a pretty impressive feat, and we're proud of our work.
When it comes to recruiting,
yeah,
how difficult is it for a first-year program? And we could take this with a subset, a first-year program within the HBCU structure as well. I know, obviously, with your contacts inside the state of Alabama, you get to recruit from that knowledge base, and obviously, you can come over here to the state of Georgia with your with your undergraduate time that you spent up in Gainesville at Brenau and over at UGA, and so what the sport means to the Southeast. So the recruiting base is there for you. How difficult is it to recruit for something that is a first-year thing that you're just unwrapping the paper on and seeing what the gift is?
Yeah, surprisingly, John, it was fairly simple. Right? We had something to offer that other schools didn't. The opportunity to start day one, right? I've told all of our kids are reporting on the 31st. So we got 11 days till the kids move in. And I've told them all, come July 31st, I have 32 starters. But come August 17th, I'll have 11. I don't have any returners, right? So you don't have to worry about, that guy in front of you that's a 2-year starter and entering his senior year, and you're going to sit behind him and wait and watch him play. We had the promise of opportunity, which I think aligns beautifully with the university, right? And what the university stands for is opportunity. And so this past spring, I was able to recruit, not fairly easily, but very well, because we offered opportunity to these kids, whether they were transfers, whether they were JUCOs, internationals, or incoming freshmen. Everybody is competing for a starting position day one. And that's unique. That's something that we can offer that most schools couldn't. And so that was my secret weapon and my advantage in recruiting this spring.
Okay, so of course that answer has opened up another split question for me. I'll see if I can hit both. I'll see if I can hit both of them. When it comes to knowing the individual, because you are starting something from the ground up, because of what Tuskegee is doing to invest, because of what it means to the university to start this program, what it means on a bunch of different fronts. You've got to recruit a special kind of individual who understands that this is something from the ground up. This is the first year of a program. It's not something where you can look at, a score sheet and sit there and go, yeah, okay, I want that person. They've got to be special inside and out for them to fit into what you and what Tuskegee want to do to represent the athletic program.
Yes, sir. It was certainly a different kind of recruiting environment for this spring, right? We were going after not only talented players, but I need leaders, right? I need some leadership qualities. I need students first, athletes second, right? Tuskegee, is an academic institution first and foremost, right? And so I had to challenge all of these players and let them know that you're going to be challenged not only athletically, but also academically. The rigor here at Tuskegee is pretty high, and our standard is pretty high. And so I went after students that excelled, not only on the pitch, but also in the classroom. And I think that's going to help us. We looked for leadership qualities this spring. I was looking at the students' extracurriculars, their clubs, and what they're involved in outside of the classroom, outside of soccer. What are you interested in, and what kind of organizations are you involved in? Because I knew that we were going to need leadership immediately. In the transfers and the JUCOs and the internationals that we went after, it was kind of the same thing, right? What kind of leadership experience do you have? I couldn't just bring in 32 freshmen and cross my fingers. That's not a recipe for success. So we looked for a lot more than ability and talent and technical skills this spring. And so that was certainly different for us.
Matthew Tarpley, head coach of the men's side at Tuskegee University, as they get ready for their first ever season, hanging out with us here in added time this morning on the morning show. How difficult is that, knowing the rigors that they'll be facing academically and athletically? How much of a difficult ask is it for you, knowing the landscape collegiately of NIL and all of the new rules of engagement, and trying to figure out, the trickle down recruiting ideas? And it's like, okay, well, if I like this student athlete, then if they go here, then I've got to think this way. How difficult is it to navigate a first year program with the landscape being what it is and the rules of engagement now being what they are?
Yeah. It's trying to, get out of a maze when the maze is always moving and shifting, right? It's kind of like the Maze Runner, the movie, right? My daughters love that movie. Me, maybe not so much, but I feel like I'm in the Maze Runner, right?
Yeah.
And the walls and the rules and everything keeps changing. So it's made, things a little more difficult, being that we're in this transition time with athletics and the NCAA. I'm happy with our roster. I'm very excited to see what it actually looks like on the field. On paper, we've got a great roster. On paper, we've got talented players, all over the pitch. But in reality, we don't know, because we've never been together. We've never trained together. It's literally taking 32 guys, putting them together and crossing your fingers that you've got it worked out and you've got the right pieces. I'm excited to see what happens here in a few weeks when we can get on the field and we can start training. But yeah, it was certainly challenging this spring, trying to navigate the minefield and get all the right pieces on board.
So you sign on. The announcement comes out. All of the public relations, communications, athletic communications, they send out the release that Matthew Tarpley is the new head coach at Tuskegee University as they start their first year program. Did your phone blow up at that point? Is it like WhatsApps and texts and emails that were you completely and totally inundated at that point, sitting there going, what area code is this? Was it like that when you signed on?
It's exactly like that. Yeah. And it hasn't slowed down. So many kids, and calling and emailing every day. I would wake up and my inbox would be just slammed full of kids from all over the country that were excited that Tuskegee was starting soccer, that another HBU had a men's soccer program, and two, and it hasn't stopped. We've got a spreadsheet for 2027s, and we've got over 100 names on that spreadsheet already of kids that have expressed interest and want to come and play at Tuskegee. So I was pleasantly surprised with the response that we received, right? So many young athletes and students that want to come and play here and be a part of what we're building and what we're creating. It's certainly exciting. And I think that the high school students and players, they can kind of sense and feel that excitement, and they just want to be a part of what we're doing here.
What was the wildest or most random geographic communication that you've gotten in this process?
I mean, I've got a lot of kids, a lot of internationals, right? We've got a midfielder coming from Italy. We've got a goalie coming from Trinidad. We've got a striker coming from Nigeria. So we're fairly diverse. But John, I'll tell you about my social experiment in a moment. But yeah, I was surprised getting, a lot of emails from Africa, right? From the continent of Africa. There's a lot of programs, college programs that are loaded with African players. And they're really good and they're really skilled. I just didn't know that players in Nigeria, in Senegal, in, these countries even knew who Tuskegee was or had ever even heard of the university. So it was surprising when I would get an email from a player from the Ivory Coast or from Senegal. That was kind of a shocking moment for sure.
Okay, so the social experiment is, drum roll please, ... question mark.
So I've been working and affiliated with Faulkner University in Montgomery now for the past, 10 years.
Yep.
On staff as an assistant coach for several years. Past couple of years, I stepped back as just the recruiting coordinator. And Tuskegee, Faulkner, like a lot of other universities, are heavy on the international, right? We had, I think, 32 on our roster last fall. 27 of those kids were internationals.
Wow.
And so my social experiment, I have faith and belief in our ECNL system, in our ECNL programs, and in our MLS programs. 10 years ago, I do not think that anyone could really say that with a lot of confidence. Today, 2026, I believe that a high-level ECNL player is on par, if not ahead of a, second or third division kid coming from overseas, which is where a lot of these international kids are coming from. They're playing second division, they're playing third, fourth division in Italy or Germany or France or wherever. I think now the progress that we've made domestically and locally, that a high-level ECNL player, a high-level MLS Next player is right there with that second and third division kid coming out of Germany or Italy or the UK. And so me personally, I want to give the local kid a chance. I'm going to go with the domestic kid. We've probably only got 5 internationals coming in this fall. Out of a roster of 32, only 5 internationals. So I really gambled on and banked heavily on the domestic kids, the kids that have been playing ECNL for a few years, that have been in really good high-level MLS Next programs. And so my experiment is that these domestic kids, that these U.S.-born based children are going to lead us to where we want to be. It may work, it may not. It's certainly a gamble. Other college coaches I've talked to, their eyebrows immediately go up when I tell them what my roster, makeup is. But I just got faith in our systems. I think we've come a long way from where we were 8-10 years ago with our domestic pipeline.
And the fact that you have seen it grow in God's time zone, as the boss calls it here at the house, it's Smith Station, what it's meant in West Georgia, in Eastern Alabama, in that section. You know what it means as you drift more centrally into the middle of the state from your time there in Tallahassee and being at Faulkner and Montgomery. And there have been times where I've used, and now it's in quotation marks more than anything, the atypical soccer market. And I don't think there is such a thing anymore because of where the sport has grown in the Columbus area, in Auburn, in Montgomery, in Birmingham, in all of those sections that you've impacted. You've seen it grow on the high school level from Smith Station, Columbus, take your pick in that section of the state on both sides to Auburn, and working your way through with the time that you've had at Tallahassee. I don't think there's an atypical market unless you haven't spent the time to look at it and see yourself and just invest and find out how the sport has grown through ECNL and through MLS Next and all these kinds of things. You've gotten to see it firsthand over the last decade.
Yes, sir. Typically, 8 years ago, if you wanted good soccer in the kind of the South, it was Atlanta, it was Birmingham, and that was about it, right? But it has grown, right? The popularity of the sport has spread all over the country. And, you'll find really quality players in the middle of nowhere, Alabama. Down south Georgia, there's quality. You can, and we've recruited, nationwide. I've got 2 kids coming in from California. I've got a kid from Arizona. I've got a kid from up in DeMatha High School up in Bethesda, Maryland. So we got them coming from everywhere. I just feel like these kids deserve a chance. I'm gonna bank on the local guy, the local support, and we'll see what happens. I think we're in pretty good shape, to be honest.
When it comes to integrating the international player and the local, there's going to be some culture shock, with the international players coming in. Have you thought, and how much thought have you put into making sure that they are as comfortable as they can be, both personally and athletically? Because I mean, you're going from Italy, to Tuskegee, Alabama. I mean, that's some culture shock, and I don't know if you've had those conversations with that student athlete's parents, with their family, administration, how the idea is to make them feel as comfortable and as welcoming as the South and the Southeast is, how you're going to integrate them so they don't feel like they're over off to the side just because they're from a country that's not the United States.
Yeah, Damon is he's coming from Milan. And Milan is, that's the fashion capital of the world, and it's a lovely city. And then you're coming to Tuskegee, Alabama, right? Culture shock, is an understatement, I imagine. So I have had conversations with he and his parents to try and prepare him for what he's walking into. But Tuskegee, we're a global university. We have a lot of internationals already on campus. Our men's and women's tennis teams are almost strictly international students, and a lot of those students are coming from Africa. So I think, these internationals will be able to assimilate fairly well. They know what they're coming and getting into. I think the heat and the humidity are going to be shocking for them. That may be the biggest thing. I think they will enjoy, Chick-fil-A,
I was going to say the down-home Southern cooking that you can get in that part of the state. That's something.
Yeah, I think the weather, the environment and the climate are going to be the biggest shock to their system. The classes in the university and the education side of it, I think will be fine. On the field, once we hit the pitch, I think the football, the soccer will be fine. But yeah, it's a factor for sure. If they were coming to a larger city, okay. But there's going to be some culture shock coming to small town Alabama from Milan or from the island of Trinidad or from, Nigeria. It's a different place, but, I think the culture that we create within our program, the university has a great culture, and campus life and student life on campus is amazing. And there's always something going on campus, right? So they'll be able to get engaged and get involved in what's going on here, and that's not a problem. I think the bigger issue is for me and my staff is to create that culture within our program, right? And that goes from our athletic trainers, our strength and conditioning people, all the managers we have serving the team, and then the 32 guys on the roster, creating some chemistry and some cohesion in a very short amount of time. Once they arrive, we've literally got, 20 days from the day they move in to the day we are playing, AUM in Montgomery, which will probably be ranked, top 25 nationally when the preseason polls come out. So I've got about 20 days to assess where we're at and who needs to be on the field and what their strengths and weaknesses are, come up with a formation and a system we want to run that will, accentuate our strengths and hopefully hide and mask some of our weaknesses. And then just create a culture in that chemistry within the side and within the team. It's a big ask to come up with that in 20-day period, but we're up for the challenge and we're going to give it a go for sure.
So when do pitchers and catchers report?
Right. So everybody will be moving in July 31st, less than 2 weeks. Yeah.
And then you have, so when's the matchup at Emory Fulmer?
So we'll be going to AUM on August 22nd.
Okay. August 22nd. So
yes, sir. We've got our first home. So we've got Enterprise State JUCO down in the Wiregrass area. They're coming to Tuskegee on August 17th. So that's technically our first one. And that'll be our home opener on August 17th. That's a Monday night, 7 p.m. The university, it's Tuskegee. They got some big plans for the night, and it ought to be, quite an event. If you're familiar with Tuskegee and HBCUs in general, it'll be a can't miss event that evening.
Monday Night Football, August 17th. Absolutely.
Yes,
I cannot thank you enough for doing this, to opening the door for us there on the men's side over there at Tuskegee. This was a treat.
No, John, I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about our university and our program and what we've got planned. It's going to be an exciting year.
No doubt about it. And obviously, we're going to be knocking on your door all season long just to kind of catch up and get the progress reports and everything. Can't thank you enough. Go get some lunch. Do you need a note to get back into class?
I might. Yes, I can probably sneak in the back door. Don, thank you, sir.
Be good. We'll get you to get back to class, and we will send a note if you need to. There we go. Matthew Tarpley, the first ever head coach for the boys for the men's side at Tuskegee University. Now tomorrow we're going to catch up with Coach Stevens and get the women's side of things. So 11 o'clock Eastern today, we caught up with Coach Tarpley. 11 o'clock tomorrow, we catch up with Coach Stevens, get the women's side. And so you get the full experience when it comes to what's going on there at Tuskegee as they're building a program. All right, so I'm going to do this quickly. This has nothing to do with I got to do some things off camera. I didn't want you just kind of staring at an empty seat while I was doing things. Basically, my laptop died while we were doing the interview with Glenn Davis. And so I have to kind of do some machinations off camera to plug things back in. Like I said, I didn't want you to just kind of sit there and see that there is that there was an empty chair and wonder what was going on. You're going to hear somebody talking and there being an empty chair. So instead, it's an empty chair and you just see me talking. You see my avatar talking here as we go. So it's been a fun show to catch up with Coach Tarpley. Like I said, we're catching up with Coach Emmanuel Stevens tomorrow on the women's side to get his perspective. But for those of you that don't know Coach Tarpley's background, went to Burnell, went to UGA for his undergrad and his subsequent academic work. And then, like I said, he has spent time in the Alabama high school system. And so for him, knowing the landscape of boys soccer, I thought it was interesting that he said he's going with the locals. And, it is something that he's going to, be finding out first and foremost. It's like, okay, so I have my ECNL, my MLS Next, and I'm bringing those folks in. And there are 27 of the 32 positions that are on this roster that are with the ECNL and the local in the United States and in the southeastern footprint. So we're going to be keeping an eye on what's going on there and seeing what it looks like on the on both the boys, because the high school rank kicks in, the men's and women's side at Tuskegee, as they have their first ever season when it comes to soccer there in the program. And so obviously very, very cool stuff when it comes to getting Coach Tarpley to come on and talk about things. And like I said, I'm sorry that if you're gonna hear some clattering, I apologize. But all right, where is the other end of there it is. Okay, so trying to find cables and trying to make sure that things are plugged in and make sure that things don't completely and totally just there's the plug. Okay, so now we're 2 for 2. All right, so now we'll go back over the rest of the news of the day and get you up and running with that. So hi, we're back. Okay, as always, thanks to everyone at Tuskegee for making this happen, and very, very cool stuff. Yeah, very, very, yes, Diaz and Alonso. That is underway, and keep an eye out for Maddie and Jason as they are up there and they are breaking everything down when it comes to the introduction of those two players. We'll have the reports from them, and we'll have all of that stuff tomorrow. So we'll let you know about what else is going on there. And let's see. David, Glenn is class act. absolutely a class act with to have Glenn, and Glenn has been one of our supporters since day one. And it is very humbling to have someone like Glenn that you can sit there and dial up and go, hey, can we bug you for a bit? And so he's been very, very cool to be a part of our platform ever since day one. News and notes: Italy has kicked the tires on Pep Guardiola. I know that noise that you heard was Nick Alifi on that. I don't know how serious it is, or if Pep Guardiola wants to just continue to kind of be chilling at the moment. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, they kicked the tires on Guardiola. No word on how serious it is and how much will be there in any kind of a discussion past checking this initial go-around. Lionel Scaloni is unsure of his future at Argentina. Contract runs through the end of the year, and then he says, we'll see. You can tell in Scaloni how much it weighs on him because of what it means. And so I wonder. But then once again, it's the same kind of a question that we got into with when you're looking at when you're looking at Mauricio Pochettino. What do you do in what do you do as a as something that is along the same lines and the same fabric of what you had from Lionel Scaloni? But because it's the end of an era, and you're going to have a lot of folks, possibly Lionel Messi, Otamendi, a lot of players cycling through, then do you just consider it a clean slate with the younger players and work your way forward from there? That's the busiest. That's the bigger question that I would have when it comes to Lionel Scaloni. Transfer news, trending rumors. Arsenal are considering a deal to sign John Stones as a free agent, according to the three-letter paper. Reported that the England defender who left City at the end of his contract earlier this month, viewed as a short-term fix for defensive issues. William Saliba played through the World Cup with a back issue, flared up in the semifinal. He could be out for months. John Stones, who's 32, seen as a realistic option to replace Saliba, as Arteta worked with him during their time together at Manchester City. Barcelona continues to consider alternative options to Atleti's Julian Alvarez in the transfer market. Team Talk claims both Chelsea's Joao Pedro and Bournemouth's Eli Junior Krupi remain unlikely to join. Report states instead, Premier League pair both Dusan Vlahovic and Darwin Nunez are being considered instead. They're viewed as experienced options and wouldn't cost a fee, as the former is the Vlahovic is a free agent after leaving Juve, and Darwin Nunez is expected to leave Al Hilal this summer. Atletico de Madrid remain interested in a move for Nico Gonzalez, according to Mundo Deportivo. Keen on making the move to reunite with Diego Simeone, having spent last season on loan with Atleti, 37 appearances, 5 goals, all comps. Viewed favorably by the manager, loan deal failed to meet the terms of a permanent deal clause, meaning he has since returned to Juve. Despite that, the Rojiblancos are keen to bring him back, just not for the required €30 million fee. Inter Milan set for a meeting with Spurs over the potential signing of Jed Spence, reporting Gazzetta dello Sport. The Nerazzurri willing to offer €35 million to sign him. Unclear whether Spurs are likely to increase their demands after his performance this summer, and Inter Milan unlikely to push beyond that number. Manchester United, we talked about it last week. It is now officially official. Women's forward Melvin Millar has joined Chelsea on a 4-year deal for a fee of around £850,000. Joao Gomes joined Aston Villa in a permanent from Wolves. The fee from the Brazilian midfielder's transfer, €40 million, sources previously had told ESPN. Speaking of, and we mentioned the Morgan Rogers deal. Here's your rumors as we know. Football Insider, Liverpool could battle with Manchester United in the race to sign Roma midfielder Manu Kone. Liverpool keen on Dortmund left back Daniel Svensson, but may face competition from Arsenal. That's from Caught Offside. TalkSport, Chelsea have opened talks with Crystal Palace over the possible signing of Maxence Lacroix. Unlikely to leave, happy to be here, FC, without tough negotiations. Ekrem Konur, Liverpool and Arsenal have made both contact over a move for Yan Diomande. The winger still yet to resolve his future amid links with a potential exit. Manchester City unlikely to entertain offers for Phil Foden. Wow, he's 26. Linked with a possible exit, Football Insider. Gazzetta, Rafa Leao attempted to buy a move to the Premier League as his AC Milan future remains uncertain. Aston Villa have been suggested as a potential landing spot, though it's unclear if either party is going to push to get a deal done. New Fulham manager Alvaro Arbeloa planning to land a couple of players from his old Real Madrid club in a transfer swoop, according to the three-letter paper. Gonzalo Garcia and Franco Mastuantuono targeted. Fabrizio Romano, Vazinha's been in talks to join Chilean side Colo-Colo this summer as a free. It appears, and it's believed, talks may have broken down, and the move may not go ahead. Sasha Tavalieri, Ipswich have submitted an offer for €8 million for Union Saint-Gilloise keeper Shel Sherpen. Open to a move, remains a gap in valuation between the two clubs. Luka Modric, according to Nikola Schera, closing in on a new deal with AC Milan until 2027. Serie A side confident of keeping the 40-year-old midfielder for another year. Schera also has Sassuolo preparing a contract offer for defender Francesco Acerbi, who is 38, until 2027 with an option for an extra year after becoming a free. And then Jurgen Klopp, according to Fabrizio Romano, is going to sign a 4-year deal as the national team coach of Germany, which will have him oversee the 28 Euros and the 30 World Cup. So that's the transfer news, the gossip rumor, and the innuendo that is attached to what we've seen there this morning. All right, so let's take a peek at the Twitters, and we'll find out what's going on. Ben Jacobs has been extraordinarily busy today, and we will let you know what is on his mind. Kevin Keegan passes at the age of 75 after his cancer diagnosis, and obviously difficult for all of soccer, really. Liverpool comes out with a statement, deeply saddened by the passing. Mourn his loss. His indomitable spirit and remarkable contribution will be forever etched in our history, and his legacy will live on. So Kevin Keegan, 75. 63 international caps, 21 goals between 72 and 82, managing the Three Lions in 99 and 2000. And the England national team comes out with their condolences as well. Battle with cancer for Kevin Keegan. He was surrounded by his family in recent months. Family statement. Double Ballon d'Or winner, much-loved husband, father, and grandfather. Family would like to thank Kevin's incredible medical team for their support. Hugely difficult time. They are requesting space and privacy. Newcastle say they will consider a lasting tribute to Keegan's legacy. They come out with a statement on their own. And European Cup champion, Liverpool, two-time winner of the Ballon d'Or, manager, a fantastic manager, Newcastle, Manchester City, Fulham, and England. City, with their quote, Kevin was a transformative manager who brought optimism and vibrancy to City during his 4-year spell in charge. And everyone, obviously, saddened with the passing of Kevin Keegan this morning of cancer at the age of 75. Kostas Tsimikas hopes to stay and fight for his place at Liverpool, named in the preseason squad to tour the United States. And the Malvine Millard signing is official because she has the jersey and it is hanging over the edge of a table. And I don't know if there's a contract there that she is supposed to sign, but it looks like she's holding a pin and she might be signing the actual jersey. So add-ons up to £1 million in the deal. Liverpool are confirming Alejandro Rosalén as their new first-team keeping coach, replacing Xavi Valero, most recently at Napoli. And Manchester United confirming 18-year-old winger Tynan Thompson is joined from Spurs, subject to registration. United's paying an initial £4 million with another $4 million in add-ons related to first-team achievement. Spurs get a 15% sell-on. And the Aston Villa signing of Joao Gomes is official for around £35 million, 5-year deal. It's a handshake, which is different than what we've seen because it is a handshake with Gomes and with Unai Emery in front of the Villa Lion. No table, no contract, no hovering pin, just a handshake. Issa Diop set to join Ipswich from Fulham in a deal worth €10 million, as Foot Mercato is reporting. Morgan Rogers, once again, now undergoing his medical ahead of signing the 6+1 for $117 million in the transfer fee for this morning. We mentioned the note on Ugo Kuipers, and it appears that he is heading to Monterrey if they can get all of the numbers squared away. Finalizing a deal to sign him, Monterrey is set to pay $7.5 million in a fee, $500,000 in add-ons, and so $8 million total. Bogart, Tenorio, Cesar Luis Merlo first to report. $8 million going to Chicago Fire as Kuipers would go south. Olwetu Makanya has not returned to Philadelphia as he wants to leave. Believes the club broke a promise to let him go to Europe if an offer came. Philly rejected an offer from Belgium. Philly insists it was a general, quote, if an offer makes sense, we'll do it kind of a thing. Club believes the value wasn't met. Rangers have reached out to Philly and Makanya's camp, but nothing has advanced. So Olwetu Makanya is not in camp for Philadelphia Union as they're getting ready for this particular part of the season. And MLS was sixth best in World Cup minutes played in the knockout stages. It was Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, Ligue 1, MLS. MLS was ahead of the Egyptian Premier, Liga MX, Saudi Pro, and the Argentine Liga. Hammarby's finalizing a deal to acquire Swedish youth international attacker Amin Boudry from LAFC. Expressen in Sweden was first to mention it. LAFC is set to receive around $3.7 million, 7 apps this season after joining in the winter. And also, Kuipers gave Lewandowski the number 9 shirt when he signed. So keep an eye on that. And Ugo Kuipers heading to Monterrey, it looks like, for around $8 million. Nothing officially official, but nevertheless, it is on the board. And Fauna, welcome aboard. Started watching soccer, very complex sport in a good way. It is. And so what I would ask Fauna first, thanks for coming in, don't be a stranger, is find what's going on locally. And if there's a team locally where you are that you can become attached to for the civic element of it all, and if there's a team internationally that you might have an interest in, but I would think globally and act locally. I think that's the phrase. But see if there's a team locally that you might be able to go and watch their games and become attached to, and be a part of their universe while you're enjoying the World Cup, because there's a lot going on and we cover it here every single day. So we're here once again every single day, Monday through Friday, to break down everything that's going on in and around the world of soccer. And so with everything happening involving the signings that are with Diaz and Alonso, Junior Alonso, Paulo Diaz being introduced to the Atlanta media this morning. We'll have, obviously, reports on that. We're catching up with Braden Dunham at the U20 camp. We'll have that interview for you on the network in its various forms, probably playing some of that for you tomorrow as well. And looking at the 2030 edition of the World Cup, 6 countries, 3 continents, Spain, Portugal, Morocco, building in a nod to the 1930 tournament, Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay each get 1 opening round game as centenary fixtures, honoring Uruguay as the original 1930 host, Argentina as that year's runner-up, and Paraguay as the home of CONMEBOL. Proposed finals date, July 21st, 2030. Schedule has not quite been locked in just yet. And Morocco, according to Morning Espresso, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente, Jason gives you the morning newsletter. Go to soccerdownhere.net, and there's a box in the read section. Put your email in there. You get the morning newsletter. Country's tourism minister has told Reuters the government plans to add 60,000 hotel beds, about a fifth of their current capacity, on top of the 45,000 they've added over the last 4 years. $20 billion into rail, road, airport, and infrastructure. Rabat is being positioned as a new hub for cultural and sports tourism beyond Marrakesh and Agadir, and the same instinct that FIFA leaned into with Qatar back in 22. Don't know if it's going to be 48 or 64, but the U.S. broadcast rights will be interesting to find out who follows up Big FOX here, because this was Fox's last tournament under their contract. So we'll see what happens. Is it going to be FOX? Is it going to be NBC Universal? And apparently it's going to be packaged as both 2030 and 2034. Netflix has the Women's World Cups in 27 and 31. Do they try and go 4 for 4? If you go 64 teams, are you splitting it up? 2034, Saudi Arabia's hosting year runs straight into a calendar problem. Ramadan projected to fall from mid-November through mid-December that year, the same window that Qatar used in 22. January and February collide with the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics. Early March brings Hajj, the pilgrimage whose timing cannot be moved. Could push the tournament to 35 entirely. Last night, Washington Spirit and the NWSL beat Boston Legacy 2-1. Tara Rudd, Trinity Rodman score. And now they're on top of the table. Telemundo, don't know if you heard, but they've added Spanish language rights to Champions League and all UEFA men's competitions for 3 years, starting in 27-28. Telemundo, Peacock, Universo, and Telemundo Streaming. And then Marty Cifuentes, we mentioned yesterday on SDH Sunday AM, named Portland new head coach after they fired Phil Neville in May. So that is the rundown there. So the World Cup halftime show went 27 minutes. Bodo Glimt is drawn against Union Saint-Gilloise, the third round of qualifiers. And Didier Deschamps explained his exit after 14 years. Pressure surrounding his position, not his own preference. Then Atletico de Madrid, once again, we mentioned Thiago Almada. Looks like 28 million euro for the full pass at 100%. So that is the rundown of anything and everything that is going on after a World Cup Sunday. It's now World Cup Monday, people. And just to let you know, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, we talked about that. What about what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it? Brought to us by our friends at Fanati's, ftz.co/soccer down here. The link is important. It helps you out, helps us out, helps them out. Gives you all of the gives you additional streaming options that you would not have had in other places. A lot of the A and B divisions in South America, you have BN, you get all the BNs, Middle East, North Africa, you get WAFCON coming up around the corner, you get all the world qualifying events, all the under the U17, U16 that's been on all the BNs. You get Libertadores, you get Sudamericana, which kicks back in tomorrow, by the way, and keep an eye on that. Then you also get Tigo Sports ties, you get CATV ties, you get TSA out of Argentina, you get CDO and CDO Plus out of Chile, you get TVV out of Venezuela, unless you have a cable system that already has it and you already have the Hispanic package. You get Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru, all the things on all the BNs, plus all of the European action that they have, French League, Turkish League, and Polish League. You get all that and all of the South American activity at Fanati's, ftz.co/soccer down here. What's going on today? Nothing. No games are scheduled. So enjoy it. Enjoy this day off from watching, or go back and watch games in the archive, wherever you wish to do so. So I would normally tease something akin to Atlanta Soccer Tonight, which is what I've been doing for the last 7 weeks, but it doesn't exist tonight. And SOT does not exist tonight either because we're taking a night off. So SOT will be back next week in some form or fashion. And then we'll start the Clausura when it comes to picks of the week in the Discord. 2 competitions down, 1 to go, and this one goes from here all the way to MLS Cup. Then we have the Campeón de Campeones. If you have not joined, join in the Discord. Go in our Discord channel or meet here in the chat, and you can get added to the Clausura competition for picks of the week. And we have 3 champs going on MLS Cup Day for the Campeón de Campeones when it comes to picks and all of what you guys do here on the Discord. I know, no humanity. Yes, I know, David. So no SOT this week. We'll be back next week because there's nothing going on tonight, and we may just collapse. So we'll figure it out. But 50, Jason was on the air for 50 straight days. I will be on the air for 54 by the end of the week. He started a day earlier than SDH AM, and nothing tonight. So his streak ends at 50, and ours will go this week, and ours will end at 54 before we get into Atlanta United 2 on Sunday and Atlanta United in the midweek on Wednesday in Charlotte, and then Saturday in New England against the Revs. Tomorrow, we catch up with our friends at Kennesaw State to find out about the economic impact of the World Cup here in the footprint. We catch up with Will Pelagic at 8:30, so it's an early start time, 8:30 tomorrow morning. Will Pelagic, play-by-play voice of Atlanta United, the Atlanta United opponent in the midweek, Charlotte FC. He's going to be at 8:30. We're going to have we're going to check the economic impact of the tournament here with our friends from Kennesaw State University. We are also going to be catching up, as we said, at 11 o'clock with Manuel Stevens, the women's head soccer coach at Tuskegee. Great to catch up with Coach Tarpley today. We're also going to find out about the UBPI program when it comes to businesses that are trying to get up and running with the help from Coca-Cola. We're going to catch up with some HBCU professors and those that were impacted by the UBPI program that was attached to the World Cup as well. And we'll see if our friend Casey White is at home or if she is on the road and we have to push her back because of schedule compression to either later in the week or to next week. So we'll figure it out. We're also catching up with Braden Dunham today at U20 camp in Arizona. That'll be in the show tomorrow as well. So we'll have a lot of stuff going on, and we can't thank you enough for being a part of it. 8:30 start tomorrow, and we may break the sound barrier and do another 3-hour show. Welcome back to SDH AM Monday through Friday. Thanks once again to Coach Tarpley. Thanks to Glenn Davis. Thanks to Bart Keeler. Thanks to Kevin Huet. And thanks to Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. Full show, and it was a lot to talk about because we had a lot to talk about. It's great to catch up with friends all day through. So back at it again in 21 hours and 20 minutes. We back at it again on SDH AM. Full show again tomorrow, 8:30 start time. 8:30 start time tomorrow. So we're going to start a half hour early to get you prepped for everything going on. Midweek schedule compression, Major League Soccer, and all the things going on after the World Cup. So because it is the end of the show, that means one thing. I get to play this. Mucho Plati, I'll play it safe. Thanks for everybody dropping by. David, Will, and Jordan, and Abby, and Ricky, and Fawn. Thanks for coming by as well for everything here. And Ricky Ricardo, thanks for being a part of SDH AM since it's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. Back at it again, 8:30 tomorrow morning for SDH AM. Special start time. Mucho Plati, I'll play it safe. We'll see you later.